us, of course, is What Am I? Brilliant player and extraordinary streamer, and we are going to be breaking down these top 8 as they become a top 4 and leaving finally just one player left. It's going to be a hella hype day.
I'm looking forward to it. Our first matchup here is going to be a little bit of the opposites attract moment in the finals. We've got the hardcore control gamer versus the hardcore burn player. So it's gonna be interesting who comes out on top. And I kind of love these games because there's so many mind games in aggro versus control play.
Absolutely. And one of the crazy things about this is that these two players are more of the prolific side of players. Gamepedia and Grin and Jin. These two have reputations as being high-level players. They understand the game better than a lot of people that are coming in, even the ones returning from 2014. They just know it better. They've been around this whole time. They know what works. They know what doesn't. They've probably experienced more metas in this game than most people have in the games that they play. It's going to be an amazing matchup of wits and skill, and I thought I had a favorite going into this, but after taking a look at the deck lists, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, there's going to be some scary stuff going on here. It's definitely going to turn into a little bit of a race, right? Because at least in game 1, before we get any sideboards involved, it's the control of the game will almost certainly go over to Grin and Jin, but the question is whether they can close it out before that burn mid and end game just kind of drags them down.
Absolutely. We're about to go into game 1 here and see things out. We'll be swapping over in just a moment. So this is a game that is absolutely on a clock. There is going to be a definitive end no matter what, for better or worse. Let's see how these things go.
Yeah, it looks like we got this turn 1 little dragon looking to get that card draw on from the side of Grin and Jin. Anytime they cause their opponent to lose a sufficient amount of morale, that'll just keep their hand all beefed up and ready to go.
Let's take a minute to talk about the actual decks here, because the first couple turns are going to play out relatively normally. But, we've got triple Cult of Aurora, but it's got the Beck in there as well, which gives them access to every single dragon in the entire game.
I will admit, this is my favorite way to run this kind of control deck with the third commander as that dragon commander, just because it gives you access to all of the different game-ending tools you need, whether it's a life gain dragon, a card draw dragon, anything you want to do to actually close out the game, that Dragon Tamer's got your back.
Absolutely. Jin, not afraid of starting the burn. He instantly throw down Denial of Surprise, wants to try and, stop his opponent from having any form of board pressure, even if it's going to slowly start killing him. Also, he's going to throw Gather Thoughts down to get that Denial of Surprise back into his deck, knowing that there's going to be a whole lot of shenanigans afoot. He needs to do what he can to stay on top of those.
We also see the race beginning basically instantly. Those Aether Acolytes aren't playing defense. They are going straight to the face because he knows if he just tries to defend, then that burn will get him.
Yeah, absolutely. This is two players just, throwing nothing but punches. No one's got their guards up. No one needs it. It's who's going to hit harder faster.
This is really interesting because we're kind of just going to see as you said, a very low defensive game of just a bunch of haymakers thrown right up until the very end, right? And then we're going to be trying to figure out, okay, who gets lethal where? How do we stop this from being a tie right at the very end? This is one of those matchups that could definitely see a tie, which is actually relatively rare.
I mean, absolutely. There's so many different universes where both of these players end up on like -10, -30 health each. Dragons just being able to jump into the field, very hard to hit with any form of direct control, but of course Exiles is very good at doing, sideways shenanigans. You've got access to Deadly, you've got access to, messing the board up and moving their things around. You've even got a single Purity of Sleepers, which used to have access to Fear, unfortunately no longer do, but there's still some options that you have there.
Oh, and we see that first kind of defensive play there. Gamepedia already deciding that they're the control deck in this matchup, at least until they get those Aether Acolytes off the field. And honestly, I kind of love that. They're saying that we're in game 1. You can't really do anything to interact with my graveyard right now, so all I need to do is shut down your offensive, and my burn will get there eventually, if I can just chill.
going up against COV, you can never assume the safety of your units. They have so much access to so many different control tools that if you've got a dude on the board, you may as well defend with it, because if you don't defend with it, it's probably going to die anyway. So, that was probably a decent decision there from Gamepedia. Make the most of them while you've got them. Plus, he's getting more of these guys out that are just going to add to the burn. It's going to make things real difficult.
All right, and Gamepedia has now successfully cleared the board of these Aether Acolytes because Grin and Jin took a turn off to use that draw effect there. So this is a rough spot for Grin and Jin. As much as they had that big early pressure, I'm a little scared here. That said, we're about to see a dragon hit play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the crucial part of this is that both players do have a lot of hand size, but we've seen Gamepedia just throw out Princess Hanekri. That's going to potentially be a bit of a spanner in the wrench, because now Gren and Jin's just drawn a Madness. That is a completely useless card. They're going to have to throw that away, or mulligan it back into their deck. And of course, they've got another Hanekri in hand, so they can just keep doing this. So even if Grin and Jin is drawing 10, 20 cards, if half of them are Madnesses, it's going to make their life a whole lot harder.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see some hand issues here from the Madness creation. On the other hand, there's a 25-25 dragon coming in. Gamepedia doesn't have an answer to that pretty quick. That is a fast clock.
And that is a dragon that's drawing 2. I want to see if Jin here has the forethought to move his Madness all the way to the left in his hand, because that could be a good chance to discard it. If he leaves it in the right, it's going to stay there.
Yeah, that's something in this game. This game, you will always end up with your cards discarded from the left side when you end up with hand size issues. So it is basically always correct to make sure you're setting up those awful cards that you don't want, like something that says discard my hand, all the way on the left side to make sure you don't have to deal with that anymore.
Hasn't thrown it away yet. We'll see how it goes. Dragon, Hanekri is going to potentially drop down and stop them. Wait, no more heroes.
No, it got annihilated.
No more heroes completely wipes that, so Dragon manages to draw an extra 2 cards, and he does discard something, probably, a little bit upset that he didn't think to throw away the Madness, but, people make mistakes. Still looking very healthy for their hand size. Even if there is one dead card in hand, you put up with that.
We weren't the happiest about what we're discarding, but the tempo play from this dragon. All right, and we shuffled that back in. Wait, we held on to Madness there?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
He didn't move it to the left side of his hand, unfortunately, so he held on to it and still hasn't moved it, in fact.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if there's a reason behind that. I'm not sure what our plan is here.
Not 100% sure.
On the other hand, it may not matter that much. The Gamepedia is not finding an answer to this dragon.
Unfortunately, 2 escalating stains in hand against someone who just doesn't have location cards, they don't care. You can steal their non-location. They're just going to be completely fine with it. And, here they are, just cycling through their deck, digging for answers, and unfortunately it doesn't look like they have any. And that's the 4th coming through, and game 1 goes to Grin and Jin.
Grin and Jin just closing that out, showing a very clear understanding that against that kind of mid-range control deck, they need to turn on that aggression. Whether they think they're usually a control deck or not, in that matchup, they have to be the aggro. And they show that with a very clear understanding and a dragon that put on that pressure that was not able to be answered.
I'm actually really scared of this deck. It has so many control options, and it has so many big hitters, most of which come out with haste, and it just has so much extra utility. Like, I've played a bunch of these decks before, and I'd never thought to use Beck and throw in Alshon Incognito. That little bit of extra card draw. It's also drawing focus on the support line, forcing your opponent to overextend their resources for what's essentially a 1-drop for you. Like, that's actually a really cool, really smart thing to do. Let's see how the players use their 2 minutes here to sideboard.
We're checking out our sideboards here. We've gotta have some kind of answer to those dragons at this sideboard, right? Let me pull up Gamepedia's sideboard here. Is there anything we can help out with that? Because those dragons are scary.
There are a couple of options here. I'm relatively certain he's going to throw in. There are some options that Exiles has access to that involve, killing things. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like a wholesale slaughter thrown in. That would be very decent. And
Yeah.
I think we can see Jin here opting for the Grave Rob as well, which is a fantastic card to, turn off a lot of that burn aggression. And really, if he does that, it's going to be interesting to see if Gamepedia has any extra win cons. If his win con is just burning people to death, what happens when you put out the fire?
Yeah, we were talking about how in the pre-sideboarded game there wasn't that much of an answer to those zombies just sitting in the graveyard and burning you out. Obviously, that's not the case anymore, right? With these grave robs coming in, there's going to be solid ways to stop that clock from the other side. And while we do get a few answers to these dragons that make it in, honestly, I think this may get even better for the Varroa deck after sideboard. This is not looking good.
Absolutely. It's going to be absolutely crazy to see how this comes on. But of course, we're jumping into game 2 now. It's going to be super hype. I'm excited. I want to see Gamepedia bring this back and get a game 3 out of it. If it does go 2-0 to Grin and Jin, though, it probably deserves it. Let's jump in and see how we go.
I would love to see if we can manage to make this game 3 happen. If we can, it's going to involve Gamepedia finding a way to deal with those high power units that create that huge clock and find that burnout potential on their side.
Absolutely. We've already got no more heroes in the hand. That's not necessarily helpful. There aren't too many unique dragons. I mean, you have got the Alshan Incognito, but they're not too worried about that specific thing drawing in because they know what's coming later. They've got the big dragons coming in later, specifically Autumn Wind. That's probably the biggest thing that they're worried about here.
And for anyone who isn't completely familiar with this game, No More Heroes is a very powerful spell that kills any unique character, of which there are many powerful ones. Unfortunately, Grin and Jin has very few actual unique characters in their deck. They are much more focused on these big dragons and these Aether Acolytes. So it doesn't matter if there were no more heroes if Grin and Jin didn't start with any to begin with.
I mean, they've got the Beck in their command zone, but that's just there to give them deck building access. And they've also got the Candidate, which, once it's played, is essentially useless. So they don't mind if they lose a Candidate on the field. They're completely fine with it. They'll just draw back a bunch of extra control spells and, take out the game that way.
Yeah, this is... Man, we were talking about wanting to see this game 3, but this is already looking a little rough for Gamepedia. These Aether Acolytes just forcing the pressure on from the early turns.
We'll see what he manages to do here. I'm curious to see if he has any specific discard play, because Exiles do have the Exile mechanic, and it will make things a whole lot easier if you can start paying reduced cost for things from the graveyard.
That's
far,
true.
Not so good though. We'll see if that changes.
And if we could manage to get those deadly demons into play, that would definitely make life a little bit easier. Those will deal with the acolytes. The problem is Grin and Jin spells that are traditionally set up to be a control deck will just as easily clear the way for these acolytes. And we see that Devil is not getting anywhere near its targets.
Yeah, the second it comes out, it's just going to get Lightning Blasted. I mean, we don't have any more Lightning Blasts in Jin's hand, but of course, Gamepedia doesn't know that, and he can't really assume that at this point either. He kind of has to just, assume that these 4/4s are going to get very easily cleaned up by the second any damage spell or kill spell comes into his hand, he's just going to get rid of it. As long as
no, and the Grave Rob shows up right on time. That sleeper is not coming back. That burn has been shut down. This is the power of the sideboard here.
It's unfortunate. That could be the end of the game, and we're only at turn 6. Sorry. We'll see if Gamepedia has anything to bring this back.
On one hand, Gamepedia has at least temporarily managed to shut down this pressure, right? There's only one Aether Adept. He's getting those blocks in. But on the other hand, where is he finding his victory from?
All right, so we're not going to necessarily know how this plays out until the turn ends, but I did just see a Mind Splitter come into hand. In a perfect world, he manages to Mind Split and throw away the dragons here. Let's see if that's how it resolves. No more heroes coming out, and at the end of the turn, we're going to throw those away. Let's see. If he throws away the dragon and the Calamity, that would be a perfect world.
Oh?
Throw away the dragon. That's not
okay.
Bad. Take that.
Okay. Step one is getting rid of the dragon. That's what we were talking about at the beginning. Not having to deal with those giant 25 power unstoppable units, that will make life significantly easier for Gamepedia.
Absolutely. The candidate coming back and throwing a bunch of extra recycles into their hand, so they're going to bring back a bunch of cards from their hand. They're going to refuel their hand and draw a bunch more, though. It does have the candidate out on the field, which, while it's not necessarily special after it's played, is still a 16-16. We don't scoff at that. And they're going to get a fair bit of extra damage coming out now. Finally throwing down the Escalating Stain is going to get some level of burnout, and, you know, he can't remove that from the graveyard because it's still going to do something to him.
Did I miss something? Why is Candid still alive after she fought with that deadly demon? I apologize. This may be I'm being confused moment on my part, but I just saw her fight a demon.
I believe that Candid's immune to kill effects.
Okay. I've played a lot of Triple Varroa, but I've actually never played Candid in my Varroa decks.
Oh yeah, the new Candid is a little bit nutty, so
goodness,
definitely making use of that.
Well, new powerful cards for me to check out. Is she? Well, yeah, okay, that No More Heroes not gonna get it done either. Candid shrugs off Deadly, shrugs off No More Heroes, and these Aether Adepts are just beating down.
This could be Gamepedia's last turn unless they find something. Denial of Reason doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, they've got two giant cards in hand, neither of which they can play right now, so... And unfortunately, he just doesn't find the answers for it and surrenders. That is GG. Grin and Jin taking the series 2-0. Well played.
Grin and Jin showing the powerful flexibility of that Triple Varroa deck. The ability to switch on the aggression with those Aether Adepts, go straight into that powerful game of, I'm going to kill you now. I might be a control deck. I might have these removal tools, but I can just point these giant units at your face.
Right,
and that's...
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
More than anything, I think that's the power of this kind of Cult of Varroa deck, at least the version that we're seeing play here, is the ability for the player in question to make that decision and figure out when they're going to throw that switch into aggression.
Absolutely. It's going to be a really hard thing. I'm curious to see how the other players deal with it. We're going to jump into a break, but after the break, we'll be coming back with What If Red versus Mew28. It's going to be an absolutely wild one. Stay tuned, and we'll see you then.
Welcome back, everyone. We just saw that awesome game of the kind of dueling control decks, that Varroa Dragon Aether Adept powered tempo control versus the more burn-centric deck. Coming up next, we have our next set here between two awesome players. You want to tell us what decks they have today, Jason?
Absolutely. So the actual players themselves, What If Red and Mew28. What If Red, aka What If Yellow, aka What If Blue, aka What If Green, has been a player for a very long time and, you know, has showcased a lot of, you know, unique mastery to the actual deck. They're running double COV and Flame Dawn today, and their opponent Mew28 is also someone who's been around for the longest time, who's going double COV factionless, which is interesting.
Ooh.
I will be able to talk a little bit more about what that specifically means when we actually jump into the game itself.
Factionless is a fun time. I'm looking at this list here, and there's a specific card that they're doing as their factionless commander that's gonna make some.
Yeah, I think that if the Exiles faction had a little bit more power, it definitely would have been a whole lot closer. And we're actually jumping into the next qualifier game now.
All right, hey, we got it. All right, so on our protagonist side a little bit, the one that we're seeing on the downside, we see this cool commander we were talking about. There's that draft. You wanna tell us what's up with that, Jason?
Absolutely. Medi, Herald of the Dawn, allows you to draft 4 random cards from the entire game and pick one and throw it to the top of your deck. But that's not even the most interesting thing about it. The most interesting thing is the card that he just drew, Extirpate, which is a get around anything card that only works if you have a factionless commander. He's decided that the third purity of COV is worth less to him than having access to Extirpate because it can kill anything. If it's immune to kill effects, doesn't matter. If it can't be removed from the game, doesn't matter. It's just going to get rid of it.
Yeah, and there are some cards in this game that are really hard to remove that will just keep coming back that can't usually even be targeted, that can't be killed except by specific things. And that Medivh does a couple of things. That Medi does a couple of things. One of the biggest ones is giving him access to that unconditional removal. With extra Peyton Calamity, it's real hard to stick anything against Mew's deck, and we're seeing that begin already. The aggro player What If Yellow is trying to get in some early damage, and we're getting a little, but everything's blowing up as soon as it hits this board.
I mean, everyone has access to the Calamity. However, that becomes a bit of a cost because you're throwing away your opponent's everything as well as your everything. Great for resetting when you're behind, but it does come at a cost. Whereas Extirpate is just, I'm going to remove this thing and you can't stop me.
Sure, everyone certainly has access to Calamity, but I would say that not everyone wants access to Calamity. We're talking about that cost there. Also, 11 mana is a lot. In this game, you have to put in some extra effort to get there. Usually, you only get to 10, unless you're gonna pump up that extra 9 mana or some other kind of ramp.
All right, so I do want to quickly draw attention to a card that Mew28 just drew. Vault of the Void. Now, this is a real interesting location card, also factionless, so anyone has access to it. I wonder if we're going to see him actually play it out.
I mean, I suppose it's a really late game win condition. It makes those 10/10s can draw some cards. It's not one you generally see, because generally for control decks, they're either triple factioned or they're using what we saw last time, those big dragons, to make things end relatively quickly. But in a deck that doesn't have access to triple purity or to dragons, which is this deck, I can see those big 10/10s plus the card draw potentially being a good way to close some games out.
Also, I just saw Mew draw from Medi one of my personal favorite cards of the entire game, Recall, which is a Warpath card that you would have no access to in a double COV factionless deck. But he just drew it by random, and now he's going to make sure that all of his opponent's stuff has -2 attack, which against a rushing, aggressive deck is a pretty good boon to have.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. We talk about how much play and counterplay there generally is in this game, but it makes it a little bit difficult when you don't know what to play around, right?
Like this is part of the information overload that Mew is going to have here, and actually does find an Oblivion, a very interesting choice of draft. It's definitely going to make things a lot harder for his opponent here. We'll see if he actually manages to play it out and is getting the Medi onto the field as soon as possible to start throwing out defenses.
That said, though, we're already pretty low. We're down to 41 before all these attacks come in, and Medi can only block so much.
That is true, but he can come back and block some more next turn. So if we can keep up 15 damage a turn to deal with that, and then get some extra damage on top, then he should be okay to, potentially pressure out the last 29 health that Mew has. But 15 health is a lot to get through, especially when it's killing everything the second it touches it, because 15 attack is also a lot.
Mew's trying so hard to stabilize this board, and if they can manage it, then they might be able to win this game, but there are 2 more Dark Blasts in that hand.
Oof, there goes the first one. So this is basically coming down to... Oh, wait, no, there are 2 Dark Blasts after the first one that just dropped, so that means he has to find a way to heal himself or rush his opponent down, neither of which I think are necessarily possible right now.
We do see that Siphon structure picked up. If he's willing to dump all of his mana, we could see a big heal come out, but that's a hard play to make against someone who has a bunch of charged units that you really need to set up to be able to block.
It's also going to be, next turn, the only play that he can potentially make. All the charge cards coming out here. Actually, no. He's actually being smart about this. Doesn't play out the first one. He's just going to drop double Dark Blast, I think, and just force his opponent to, take it down. And also...
Oh, no. This is lethal. So this is actually a really cool combo that this deck gets to do, What If Yellow's deck, as we see them take it down. Mass Death is a crazy powerful card you generally see in control decks. It'll blow up everything that isn't trying to hide in the support zone. But there are some specific cards that say can only be killed by damaging effect. and those are those really aggressive charge units we saw out of What If Yellow. So they get to blow up the entire board, and their powerful, aggressive units just shrug off that mass death and push that lethal. That's a nice play.
That indeed was. Found lethal where it mattered most, manages to take game 1. We will be jumping into sideboarding in just a moment. We'll see if any potential changes come out here. Let's take a quick look at what their sideboards actually are and what they have access to, because I think Mew might need to potentially prepare for some different case scenarios that are going to start coming through.
Yeah, Mew is going to need to bring on some extra early game removal. I would not be surprised to see those Chain Lightnings come in, potentially even Denial of Surprise. Just getting that ability to make sure you can shut down the board in the early game so your more powerful effects, like that extra pay, like that huge draw from Vault of the Void, can come in clutch later.
I'm looking at What If Yellow's sideboard at the moment, and I'm not 100% sure if there's anything he can really bring on here that could stave off a lot of this aggression. Like, he has a couple of options. He's got some things to deal with a little bit of extra damage. He's got some control like Death Ray and stuff, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be enough.
Yeah, what if Yellow, our aggro player, mostly probably would just need to find things to push more damage around the outside? I'd kind of expect this Mortar Cannon to come in, honestly. I'm not sure what else. Possibly even Candit the Demonic. Because what if Yellow has to expect that there's going to be some amount of a way to shut down their base game plan? So they're going to be looking to get around that. Oh, and like I was saying, there's that Mortar Cannon. Here we go.
Nice. All right, so does want to try and throw out some extra direct damage. I don't necessarily... Oh, I know. Mortar Cannon's good because there's very few things that can actually kill it in the support zone where it's safe, and he's going to force Mew to throw down his very valuable extirpates onto it. I think that might be the play.
Yeah, if he's only paying a couple of mana for that Mortar Cannon, and you pay 7 to extirpate it, you're giving huge tempo to the aggro deck that knows exactly what to do with that.
Plus, like, he's not too worried about the double COV factionless having a whole lot of rush. He doesn't need to worry about his defenses. He can very easily and very safely invest his resources into just throwing out, extra little bombard shots by using the activate main and getting some free damage down. He doesn't necessarily need to worry that much about, how is COV going to deal with this. Either you use the extirpate and you lose a lot of your tempo, or, you just burn out slowly.
And that's kind of the weakness behind the version of this deck that Mew has chosen. These extirpates and this Medi gives you so much power the later the game goes, where even in mirrors you'll just be able to grind your opponent down. But you're not quite as focused on that early game, which lets this super aggressive deck backed up with that powerful burn by What If Yellow make your life really difficult.
I do want to quickly check in and confirm who won the previous first game.
I am almost certain that the Burn player won the first game. In fact, I am certain the Burn player won the first game. I think that may be a graphical error that we have we have Mew with the victory.
Just wanted to confirm because I felt like I was being gaslit by a number there for a second. I was like, that's not But yeah. What If Yellow is at 1-0 currently against Mew. We'll see if Mew can bring this back. And I think that's actually another change for their sideboard. The Varroa Kidnapper might be a very interesting move here.
Yeah, that's going to be a powerful way to take some of this pressure off the board. The only dangerous thing is if that Varroa Kidnapper ever dies, it'll come right back.
I mean, true, but you're not necessarily too worried if it just stays in the support zone the entire time. COV does have a bit of a hard time with the support zone. They do have options, but it does make things harder. And if they just throw something out there, for example, Malignant here is great at generating long-term value. You kidnap that, and you suddenly things are looking a whole lot better for you.
That's okay. We got that big storm on cleanup, so that was a really nice draw by Mew there. That was a solid top deck to bring down some of this aggression. We're gonna clean up this Malignant, and going into turn 7, Medi's gonna be hitting the board, and we do not see that crazily burn heavy hand from What If Yellow like we did last time.
Also, I'm not 100% sure if you saw the draft there. Mew managed to find a second wind, which is absolutely fantastic if you want to, fool your opponent and make them double down into something. Also, great at dodging out a mass death. So that big combo we saw last turn where the mass death dropped and he just flew right past it, going to be a whole lot harder. Throw down second wind onto something, it's going to survive the mass death, and suddenly your opponent's doing combat with you and not your fortress. That little bit of extra time could be the difference maker.
That's true. Nice draft out of Medi there.
Ooh, does actually find another card. I didn't actually get to see it that time. He chose it very quickly. Whatever it was, he's like,
he was clearly happy about it. That's what he wanted.
Yeah. He was very happy about it. We'll see what he draws at next turn.
I will admit, I'm slightly surprised that we didn't see the Kidnapper come down to take one of those big units into exile here. Oh, that huge refill from Confront the Aether.
Looking absolutely fantastic right now. Does have a lot of control. United Front, that's what he got.
Okay.
All right, that's fine. You get 3 of the Sages out and proc all of their effects. That's solid. I'll give him that. I can see.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, we take those. We take those. Royal Kidnapper is going to try and take down Candid. Not a bad choice whatsoever. Lightning Blast going to be also taking down one of the just small little 4/2 guys in the back.
And I wonder if we're going to see this mass death again for What If Yellow, just to push through this charge damage.
I mean, definitely could, but we do have something that has 2 lives here, so it's going to make things just a little bit harder even if he does.
But the one with 2 lives ran away. It's going to go fight. It's not on defense anymore.
But he didn't know that. He thought, oh, it's just going to stay in the defense zone. See, that's where the ingenious design of Infinity Wars Classic comes out, because your opponent knows what you're going to do, but you know that they know that they're going to do. Like, it's 5-dimensional chess. While
we got
someone.
Yeah, we got a crazy moment there where Mew got to get in that 10 free damage. Now we're gonna see if they. Oh, this might be a little bit greedy though. If they go for this again, if these 2 charge units connect, that might be the end of the game.
I think that he probably should have went for Hubris of the Strong there. I mean, it's a fantastic little.
That's a great removal option.
Well, it's not necessarily removal. It's staving off the inevitable guys charging through from defense. If those guys are 1/1, so what? Like, do 1 damage to me. It's fine.
I personally count Hubris of the Strong as a removal option. I see making a unit a 1/1 kind of the same as removing it, but I understand.
Essentially removal.
It's removal-ish. It's removal light.
Yeah, absolutely. Mass death coming out.
Yep. Oh no! And the Varroa Kidnapper went out to meet it, so the thing it kidnapped is coming right back.
It's not a huge worry at the moment. 6 damage does make it through, but that second life did come in clutch there. And he does have the 3 Sages ready to go.
That was huge. We're still on 29. There's 1 Dark Blast and another slightly smaller burn spell in hand. So if this board stabilizes, Mew might be able to take this down. This is still going to be close.
Goliathus is going to be throwing away 4 cards here, it looks like. I'm real curious as to seeing how this actually resolves. Huge amounts of damage now coming out.
Gigantic. Goliathus living up to his name.
No, it's damage. That bypasses their immune to kill effects thing, and fantastic. He's now gained control of the situation, has a bit of a hand advantage, has the Aether in their hand, so they can continue to fuel their hand up, and they've got the Goliath. This actually looks like it could be Mew's game.
I think Mew is looking like they're going to take this down, and they even have a little bit of extra healing with this Siphon structure to keep them safe from any top deck burn by What If Yellow. This is looking like they might be able to take it down. Oh, they're checking through that graveyard, so they're trying to figure out if they want to play around another mass death here.
Well, he's got a grave rob on his Medi, and he's just trying to weigh up if that's a decent option, trying to see, what threats does my opponent have in the graveyard that I could deal with, because, I could just choose the grave rob and just throw them away next turn. he wants to make sure to see if there's anything in there that gives them that sort of value. He does choose the Grave Verb, so he is somewhat afraid that he could be seeing recycles or gather thoughts coming out here to get a lot more board control out. But let's see how.
And I love this play of just deciding it's okay, take the turn off. Let's just do a full powered siphon structure. I want my hit points back. Because really, once he has this powerful control of the game, the only way he's going to lose is those burn spells. So he's trying so hard to survive through them, and he just barely does. But one more burn spell could take this down. This is so scary.
All right, let's see what he manages to get. There are so many options in What If Yellow's deck at the moment that just give that little bit of extra damage. He needs to find a way to deal with these, and it looks like Mew might just be pushing for a tie on lethal here.
35, 12. That's 47. If this all gets through, Mew's gonna be able to force a tie here.
He just needs to make sure that that guy in the support zone is blocked. If he can block that and there's no direct damage, he can survive the turn and then go in doubly hard next turn. But if he just defends with that, that's going to be his lethal gone.
If he puts anything on defense, there's no lethal here. And he's just giving What If Yellow more time to find any of the burn spells that his deck is just packed with. This is a scary spot.
He's also lost lethal, so it's real. Oh wait, does Goliath have unstoppable? Because that could actually be the deciding factor.
He's... Oh no, there's the Dark Blast. Oh, we were so close, Mew. We were so close.
And if he went with his last guys in the assault zone, he would have tied.
Could have tied it. Oh, we were so close, and we could have tied it. We could have forced another game, but unfortunately, Mew gets just a little bit too greedy, trying to take down that win instead of being willing to settle for a tie, and gets Dark Blasted right in the face for his troubles. Good attempt by Mew, but not quite enough to take it down, and we are going to see that burn deck moving its way on.
Absolutely. What If Red joining his fellow winner Grin and Jin from the previous set, jumping directly into the semi-finals. However, we still have two more qualifiers that we need to weigh up, and I think that we've actually got our first set ready to go, which is Gamepedia jumping back on the stage once again, taking on Jack Weiss.
Nice. Let's bring it back up.
The players are just going to get ready. While they get ready, we are going to be jumping ahead to a break. Feel free to leave any comments and feedback on the chat. We're going to start engaging with people about the previous game during the start of the next game. So stay tuned. Hope you're having a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is. I hope it's a good one. We'll see you after the break.
Back in a minute. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We just finished off that set. There were some crazy top decks that let the burn player just eke out that victory before the control player was able to take back their power on the board. But before we get into our next set here, I have an announcement or two that I'm going to ship it over to Jason for.
Thank you so much. So one thing that I do want to quickly be a little bit upfront about is that this is our first big tournament that we've done as a game, still in alpha. Things are going wrong a little bit here and there, and it also came at a bit of an inopportune time as I was currently taking a little bit of time off for surgery stuff. One of the things we forgot to tell you all is that there are going to be rewards from this tournament that aren't just the cash money prizes that are going out. This includes packs going out to everybody who even participated in the qualifying stage last week, extra packs for those who won, big amounts of packs for those who actually qualified and won the entire bracket, and of course we're going to be seeing a lot of packs going out, as a part of this tournament as well, with the winner getting full play sets of all of the cards if they don't already own that as a part of the Kickstarter rewards that went out recently. So if that goes to someone who's already got it, they can gift that to another player. I'm sure we could work something out there. But, if they haven't got that and they want to get every single card colored, animated, there you go.
Hey, that's a pretty good bonus reward, or just setting that up. Hey, in case you didn't have this, here have some awesome shiny things. Congratulations, you can make your winning deck look even better.
I'm yet to confirm if we're going to be giving away a Infinity boarded card, which is something from the old days of Infinity Wars Classic. I will be talking about Coil with that because I think it would be appropriate. But in the future, we'll be having tournaments like this that have stamped cards being announced and given away with exclusive stamps. And that means that once that event is over, no one else is going to obtain those cards other than the people who either participated or won the event, making them highly sought after collector's items potentially.
Oh, that's super cool. The idea that beyond any other prize support, you're competing for an almost one of a kind card that says, "Hey, I was here. I won this event. This was my moment." And you get to display that every time you go and play a ladder game. That's kind of an awesome thing.
Yeah, that's what the stamped rarity was initially supposed to be. We haven't quite made it fully in implementing those changes and getting stamped to that stage, but you know, we are eventually getting there. Speaking of getting there, I think we're jumping into our next game, which I believe was Gamepedia jumping back on the stage again versus Jack Weiss.
All right, let's check it out. We have Gamepedia at the top again with that kind of mid-range zombie burn deck, and Jack Weiss we're seeing with, this is the first time I believe we've seen this player today.
Yeah, and also the first time we've seen any player on the camera as well. Jack Weiss comes from a background in other card games. You know, they're relatively new to Infinity Wars Classic, but you know, because they are a prolific player elsewhere, they got an invite directly to the finals.
Board extremely quickly, and Gamepedia is going to end up very quickly on the back foot. But sometimes their deck can handle that. They're going to look to defend and set up that recurring burn damage. And if they can slow down this angelic onslaught, then the later the game goes, the more that burn will add up.
I'm just going to drop a prediction now. I think this game is going to come down to if Gamepedia can use his hand control to get rid of the soul in his opponent's hand, because that soul is going to be something that's going to be very hard for Gamepedia to deal with. It's going to be potentially a bit of a game breaker or a game changer. And if he doesn't find a way to deal with soul specifically, having, you know, multiple lives, flying, multiple attacks, that's going to be a lot of pressure, and I don't know if he's going to have any other ways to deal with it.
Saying, I want to delay defending with these zombie burn cards so that I can put on a little extra pressure.
And I think part of the reason for that is, if I'm mistaken, did Gamepedia just drop another No More Heroes card?
I didn't quite catch it, but I would not be surprised.
I think he did, which is going to take out a lot of the unique angels here and, you know, really mess up a lot of their structure. And I think he just top decked that last turn, and now he's, you know, throwing his stuff here to defend against all the cornerstones and stuff like that. But yeah, there's No More Heroes, taking out two of the big angels on the field.
And that's the power of that card we were talking about from last time. It didn't really get to shine in the match where there weren't heroes, but angels are very heroic creatures. They have their own unique personalities. So the swarm is still ongoing here, but the biggest parts of the angel attack have been taken out of the way.
Absolutely. That was like 50 damage that he managed to circumvent with that one card. Not only the big angels themselves, but the +3/+3 buff that Hurrah Hell gives to all of the angels adds up, especially when they've got 7 other angels on the field. That's 21 in total attack and health stats that has just been ripped from him. And we'll see what other answers Gamepedia has to everything else.
That was an absolute clutch moment. Definitely slowed down that onslaught from this powerful angelic aggression deck. But as you said, we're definitely going to need some more here. We're approaching that halfway point on our life total, and that two-lifed angel just hit the board as well.
Here we have our first soul being played out. And, you know, Gamepedia doing what they can to try and defend against this angel onslaught, but there's a lot of aggression coming out here from Jack Weiss. And if he doesn't try and get on top of this soon, it's just going to be game over.
This tempo keeps adding up, and I'm not seeing any really solid way to deal with that soul now that's on the field. Those multiple lives are going to cause some serious issues.
So you could play something like No More Heroes into Spontaneous Combustion, but you don't have enough resources for that. At 6 resources, they don't have many options at all, and it's going to be really hard for them to try and clean up the board here. The Spontaneous Combustion would have been a great option if his opponent didn't have a lot of high health things, because if they have nothing but 2/2s on the board and they're swarming you with that, it's very easy to clean them up with Spontaneous Combustion. But if you have something that has a lot of health, they can tank a lot of those RNG hits and, potentially stop you from losing any of your units if you play it out correctly. But we are seeing
that's
Abandoned Symbiote played out, which is a very interesting card for the deck.
that's kind of one of the big issues with trying to defend against this angel deck. They do have a lot of smaller ones that are vulnerable to sweepers, but they mix up those mid-health angels, those double life angels, those huge pump effect. And you end up really needing some specific answers. The lack of mass death out of this deck from Gamepedia is definitely causing some serious issues here, because Jack Weiss doesn't even need to play around it. They can just send these angels in every single turn.
I want to quickly revisit Gamepedia's actual deck, because the card that he just played out is absolutely fantastic for discard-focused exiles, but we saw him earlier today when he was taking on Grin and Jin. I don't think he has a lot of discard options. So,
he has that Spontaneous Combustion. He has the Deadly Devil, but there's not a lot. You're right.
Those are exile benefit cards. I'm talking about something to trigger them, something to throw them into exile, because the guy that we just saw, whenever you throw away a card, he plays it for free after you've thrown it away. But how is he throwing things away? Where's the value for this?
That's true. I'm looking through the deck list now that you've mentioned that, and I'm not seeing many ways to get those triggers running.
No More Heroes comes out, as well as Spontaneous Combustion. Doesn't manage to clean up Soul's Second Life, and only takes out 1 or 2 angels. And that's just way too much pressure. Gamepedia gets taken down. First game going to Jack Weiss.
Oof. That's another thing, and we're kind of seeing this in a bunch of our games today. People are not giving sufficient respect to these really powerful aggro decks. They're not showing up with a game plan of what am I gonna do if we're seeing this immediate attack and tempo on the board. There's an old saying that I think we're seeing become very true in this tournament today. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Very true. Unfortunately, the nature of this card game, as well as most card games, is that it's a lot easier to act than it is to react. And that's one of the inherent weaknesses of decks like Gamepedia's. It's all about reacting to your opponent, because you're consistently playing one turn behind what's actually happening, essentially. And, when the Angels are constantly playing out these big threats and, constantly throwing a lot of extra pressure onto their board, and you're busy controlling what they did last turn, it's a bit of a gamble, so to speak.
Yeah, you're always looking for that moment when you can finally fully reset the board, take a breath, have your moment where you can kind of turn the corner and actually set the aggro deck on its back foot. Maybe when they run out of cards, maybe you can get a big sweeper. But we're just seeing these control decks not be able to quite find that breaking point. And when they almost do, just that last little life of that angel or those points of burn damage, just closing it out. And I'm interested to see if any of these control decks can find a solid way, maybe post-sideboard, to kind of stem the bleeding here.
Yeah, so we're going to jump into the game itself and see what we actually manage. And first thing I will note, Glimpse the Nightmare. We were just talking about, he doesn't have many things to discard cards. I guess we just missed the Glimpse the Nightmare, or he didn't have it at the time, or maybe it was sideboarded in. But that is a decent card that allows you to throw something away, draw something else back, and he's already throwing away his demons that are going to start that burn very fast, very quickly on turn 1. So not a bad first turn play.
And we also see that sideboard showing up just a little. Oh, that's not even a sideboard. That's main decked. Gamepedia has main deck drag down, so getting set up to fight against those flyers from the get-go.
Interesting. So he probably saw that, this was one of his only glaring weaknesses early on in his playtesting. I was like, you know what, if I just mainboard this and sideboard it out after game 1 against anyone that's not flying. That'll do. That's just fine. And also, Wholesale Slaughter coming out as well. Great way to clean up a lot of the Angels on the field, and that could actually be the tempo offset that he's been looking for here. I mean, we're already jumping into turn 3, and he's got his burn set up. His opponent doesn't have a whole lot of aggression down, so far so good it looks like.
Yeah, we're getting all of those demons in the graveyard where they belong, getting this kind of slow burn setup ready to go, getting those engines rolling. And the Angel tempo is definitely not where it was last game. We're going to start seeing that take over on the board, but if we can get a little bit more solid control tools coming in out of Gamepedia, then they could potentially find a way to hold on long enough for their burn to take it down.
I am looking at Jack Weiss's sideboard at the moment, and I don't think that there's a whole lot that he has that's specifically good against what Gamepedia is throwing out here, so I'm not 100% sure if he even touched his sideboard. I think he was quite happy with his first game. He's like, yep, that was good, let's just do that again. And I don't think he's made any direct changes here, whereas the changes Gamepedia has made have already started showing, potential results.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. The aggro deck going into the control deck will generally only be looking for sideboard opportunities if they have a specific thing they want to fight, because this is something that happens across a lot of different card games. If you're not careful with your sideboarding, you can really easily dilute your deck to the point where you're not doing what you want to be doing anymore. So when you have this very proactive deck like this Angel deck from Jack Weiss, you need to be very careful about over sideboarding.
Absolutely. No more heroes coming out and actually taking out 3 different characters at once. Decent value play, and also managed to clean up the Herald there as well with his Dirty Devil. So, he is actually staying at a pretty decent level, and despite the fact that he hasn't even been attacked once, Jack Weiss is already down to 65 health against Gamepedia's 75 when he's had complete control of the board this entire time.
Yep, this is the strength of Gamepedia's game plan. Once they have those devils in their graveyard, unless you have targeted graveyard removal, which Jack Weiss does not have in their main deck or sideboard, you're on a clock, and all they need to do is sit there and run it out. So Jack Weiss is the one who has to be aggressive here.
Absolutely. And by throwing in double attacks into a guy with Deadly, very efficient way to clean up the board. Is still a turn behind, but he's cleaned up a lot of the big threats, and the Mind Splitter in his hand is just going to also damage his opponent's hand as well. I think it might... this looks crazy, because we see Jack Weiss has so many things on the board, yet I feel like Gamepedia is slightly ahead here.
This is still so close, just because Gamepedia is so light on actual cards. I'm scared for him still. I wanna see Gamepedia take it down, because I'd love to see this game 3. But this is definitely not over yet. These Angels have some scary comeback potential.
I hate to see the spontaneous combustion comes out, not a single thing dies, everything brought down relatively low, but it doesn't necessarily matter what health something's on if everything you have just has Deadly anyway. So that's a bit unfortunate to see. I'm curious here for the Chalice of Madness to see if that is going to have any big potential plays or movements in the rest of what the deck is trying to do here.
Yeah, it's like we say in a lot of cases, the only hit point that really matters is that last one. So these Angels might be severely damaged, they're having a tough time, but they just keep trucking in there.
Look, whether you're on 10 health or 1 health, if you're still alive, you're still alive. So
exactly.
You're doing alright there.
Oh, we need to find another spontaneous combustion maybe to just finish this cleanup. I'm not seeing it though. So this is starting to get a little bit out of hand. And this is what I was talking about. Jack Weiss only needs a turn or 2 of not being shut down, and these Angels will begin to outrace that burn from Gamepedia very quickly.
True, but he has got the Dissension now, which is going to give him a giant flying dragon on the field if he targets his own thing. It would be a real unfortunate circumstance if that Abandoned Symbiote was boxed away, but I don't think Jack Weiss is going to be doing... Oh, wait, no. spoke too soon.
he knows it's coming. He's not having any of that. That abandoned symbiote. Goodbye. Come again next turn. Sorry, my friend.
And the real unfortunate part is that if Gamepedia has played out his card to change it into a dragon, which he has, that's going to bounce, and he's not going to get it back. That's going to be a huge swing of resources back to Jack Wise. So I guess I have to take back what I said about it looking like Gamepedia was ahead. That might be the deciding factor.
Yeah, there's too many tempo play. Oh wait, the dragon showed up. So the dragon showed up, but then got boxed because of the initiative order, right?
Right, but I don't think that necessarily matters because he's got nothing in the defense zone, already on super low health.
Yeah, the tempo's just too high. And there it goes.
All right, so we have our third qualifier here, Jack Weiss, moving into the semi-finals. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, today, the story of today so far has just been the domination of these aggro decks. Anytime someone is looking to slow the game down, looking to take that deep breath, they always have that little bit more energy just to clutch it out. And I'm curious if anyone can slow these down.
We are going to see. Hopefully, it's going to be a very close best of 3 series between the next person we have. The final qualifier match for the final spot in our finals is going to be going against Mew28 versus the winner of a current match that's being played out between Azrael and Nalguiden. So we'll jump to that once we get the actual feed from the players. Very excited to see that. But until then, we'll be jumping across to a quick break. Or do we want to quickly take a second to interact with the chat? I think might be a good idea as well.
Sure, I'm happy to go back and see if we got any cool questions that went on. How's everybody doing in the past? We are on delay, as you might well know. Welcome to the future. I'm sorry I don't have flying cars for you yet. We're seeing what we can do.
Kevcast wants cow emotes for the channel. We'll see what we can do. Not a problem. We'll do our absolute best. I'm sure that no one's trademarked cows yet. I'm sure we can figure that out. And yeah, also just as a quick little shout out, we have been having a couple of small technical difficulties here and there. Super sorry about all those, but thank you so much for bearing with us. Hopefully the rest of the content is smooth sailing from here. I think we've fixed all the potential problems, but I don't want to say that we have because I don't want to jinx it.
Gotta knock on wood, throw salt over your shoulder, make sure we don't drop nothing. And I'm looking forward to this next set of games. Let's do a quick break, and we will be right back.
See you in a moment.
Welcome back once again, everyone. We are back with an amazing roller coaster of a match that we will get to in a minute. Don't worry, it's going to be so exciting. You have no idea. In fact, this is going to be a 40-card mirror. What's the mirror again, Jason?
We are jumping into the lower semi-finals bracket between Nalguiden, I think it was Nalguidan or Nalguiden, and Azrael. Nalguidan, sorry. And they are both playing exact 40-card matchup, exact mirror copies of a triple DoD deck. Azrael piloted this deck in the qualifier tournament that got them to this stage, posted his deck online, and Nalguidan was just like, that seems like a pretty cool deck. And they just accidentally matched into each other, and it's taking a long time. So they're currently 1-1 apiece. Game 3, which will be starting just in a moment.
So we're theorizing here that because these are the most defensive decks that you can possibly create. So game 3 is going to go to the one who stays awake at their keyboard longer, right? That's what's going on here.
I think the real winner is the Infinity Wars classic soundtrack that's playing in the background during the cards, because that's gotten a whole lot of airtime, and the soundtrack is a goddamn banger. So it's
true.
It's an absolute
true.
So,
we get to hang out, chill to some cool tunes. There might be some monks kind of sitting there staring at each other in the background, but I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of not what we're paying the most attention to in this match.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys just want to tune out, we can just turn this into a podcast for the next half an hour to an hour while we jump into game 3. That's more than fine. Oh, we'll just tell you about our days and stuff. Interact with the chat a little bit. I am seeing a bunch of new people jumping in. Writes out, welcome to the chat. Agent Coil himself jumped in as well. I also saw Gamepedia jump his raid into here. He unfortunately didn't make it out of the qualifying brackets, so he's ended his stream to come and join as a participant in the watching. Hope you're having a fantastic time, Gamepedia. Sorry that you lost. I actually legitimately, Gamepedia was someone I thought was going to make it to the semis, if not the finals. I'm kind of shocked as how hard their runners been here.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes to show the power of this kind of aggro-focused metagame. We have these ridiculously intense tempo decks that are just pounding people until they fall over. And now we're going to get to see the exact opposite, kind of the response to that aggro-focused metagame. A bunch of bugs who are going to sit there until you get bored and walk away.
I'm a little upset that this matchup isn't happening in the finals somewhere, because then we could have said that we have a 100% chance of a triple DoD deck making it into the actual semi-finals. That would have been pretty cool. Yet right now, we just have a 100% chance that they're going to have a 50% chance at going into the actual semi-finals. So, you know,
we tried. We tried, Jason. We did our best.
Oh well.
I think the good thing, though, is that going forward, we'll get to see the really cool interplay of the way the aggro decks interact with these more kind of defensive control deck, as opposed to the way that the defensive control decks interact with each other, which is kind of not. But, you know.
It's definitely not a good omen that both of these players are currently 0-1 playing the hyper defensive decks. That's not a good start to the record. But at the end of this game, we can say for certain that a DoD deck did win a game in the finals. So there is that.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. It's still theoretically possible that neither of these decks makes it through these group stages, right? And if we get a true semifinals with neither of these powerful DoD decks making it through the aggro decks, that scares me a little bit for our metagame, because that's saying like the people who showed up ready to defend, ready to jump in the way and not let these aggro decks have their way with them, still were not able to stop that tempo and that burn gameplay. So we're gonna have to get brewing and figure out how we're gonna deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, looking at what's ahead, no matter what, we have Medi COV taking on a triple DoD deck, and I think that's going to be really interesting, because one of the biggest powers of triple DoD is they can throw out their avatars who stay on the field, but Extirpate doesn't care. Extirpate doesn't care that this is a thing that comes back to life. It's just going to remove it from the game. Goodbye. It's done. So that's going to be real harsh for the DoD player to go against, as if going against double COV wasn't hard enough.
Yeah, Extirpate is going to be that kind of back pocket tool that is going to make those control mirrors brutally difficult to deal with for the other side. Because a lot of the time, these control decks are looking for these game-ending, hard-to-deal-with threats, these avatars that keep coming back, this slow morale grind down. But against Extirpate, there's literally nothing you can do. So it'll be interesting to see how the DoD player, the kind of defensive deck by design and by definition, figures out a way to try to turn on that aggression when they know if the game goes long enough, they'll just run out of threats.
Unfortunately, they do only have 40 cards in the deck, so they're out of cards. And gosh knows that double COV is very okay with cleaning up 40 threats in, just a couple of turns with enough resources. They'll be fine.
Especially if you want to talk about grinding people out with Medi, right? Just keeps getting new different cards drafted for what you need. You can't get through that.
I will say that Medi does have one unfortunate potential comeuppance here, and that's Humble. Because they're big and constantly drafting, it's easy to just target that in the command zone, and then Medi's just offline for basically the rest of the game. Then, at that point, you've got your Extirpate, which is nice, but you don't get to draft from everything and top deck something amazing. You also don't get to bring back a 15-15 every time you want to later on in the game. So Humble is going to really mess up the recursion of Medi, but a big part of having Medi in there is the extirpate, which isn't going to go away with a Humble.
That would be interesting if you could try to humble a spell, but I think we call that counter spell, and we're not in the right region for that.
Yeah, I think so.
Might need a little extra help to get that done.
All right, so we are going to be jumping into the game soon-ish. I'm not 100% sure. All right, I think it's starting up in just a moment. So quickly, just shouting out to the chat again. I am seeing Manubu CS in the chat. First time here. Welcome to the chat. Hopefully you're having a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is. I hope it's a good one. And
again,
also,
we are in the future, but feel free to drop any comments, and we will we'll shoot it back to you as soon as we can hit this. Gotta keep that delay up just in case, because we play in a card game. But we're looking back into the past at you, chat. We got you.
Nice. Also, a quick shout out to Professor Wisteria, who's playing. I believe they're watching us from a card game store in America right now as they're at work. So hello. Also, hello to the rest of the card game. Hope you're all having a great time.
Having a good time. Gonna get our podcast on here in a sec. I mean, we're gonna get our cast on here in a sec. Hey, we got the game. We're loading in.
Wow, look at that. Triple DOD versus triple DOD. All right. This is going to be a little in, everybody.
Oh, goodness. So, all right, I gotta ask, Jason. I think this is going to be the important question in this matchup. Are you ready, buddy?
Yeah.
What are some, cool TV shows you've been watching lately?
That's a great and a very important question for this matchup. I recently finished Lucifer on Netflix. Was pretty amazing. I wasn't expecting the ending that it gave us, but that was definitely interesting. I think I really enjoyed it. What have you been watching?
I've been getting into The Magicians lately. It's a little bit on the angsty side, but it's been a fun thing to kind of wind down with, seeing everybody make every possible bad decision at every point. It's good to see that there are people out there who can make worse plays than I do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, being a little bit serious for half a second here, though. Here's my actual question. Yep. What are the win conditions in this deck?
I think both players want to try and make beefy enough units that it becomes hard for their opponents to control them and just have a better board state, leading to better trades, leading to quicker morale victories. I think that's honestly what I've got to go for here, which means that, yeah, we're going to be here a while.
So here's something I want to check out, right? Mm-hmm. If we're 100% focused on morale, right? We're basically saying the only victory almost always for either of these decks is going to be a morale victory. That's what they're set up to do, right?
Yeah.
At what point does the right play become to just stop playing units? At what point does the right play become, I'm literally going to refuse to play this game, and because I'm a little bit ahead on morale, I'm winning the deck out race. I'm not going to play with you, you do something.
I think that could work, but unfortunately DoD has a lot of ways to keep their own things safe. So, they can't really neglect the board, because if a DoD player notices that you're not attacking, they'll just attack. And, that'll just be a little bit of extra chip damage. And once health becomes a defining factor, you're put into a position where you have to defend. So, that's a mindset you can only really take on and embody for about 3 or 4 turns.
It's just interesting to me how you can... Basically, these decks that are... And we see this now. The attack is coming in here already. These decks that are kind of set up to be these morale decks, you can force them to be an attacking deck at least a little bit. So they have to be ready for that. And that's kind of what I like about this game in general. We were talking earlier today about the kind of more controlling deck being forced into that aggressive position with those Aether Adepts coming in and making the tempo plays happen. You can do the same thing with these DoD decks, right? If you choose not to play their game, then they have to switch up how they're playing yours.
A little bit. There are some cards that make that very hard, but I don't think either player is running them at this stage. One of them, of course, being Earn, which used to be a lot more powerful than it is currently. It did get hit with the nerf bat because it was a little bit, hard to engage with. But I don't think, I could be wrong here, but after looking at their deck list, I don't believe either player has Shunhao's Earn in their deck, which would be a great way to constantly force and apply pressure. But yeah, we just don't have that.
And absent actual, game-defining clocks like that, it's hard to find the moment to force these plays. It's hard to decide how you're going to make your opponent commit to the board so that you can kill their units.
Who do you think's going to lose their Gaohan last? Whose Gaohan do you think?
Whose Gaohan sticks around the longest? Well, I'm gonna say that because Nalgudan is attacking right now, theirs is gonna stick around the longest because it's not gonna be bothered. They've chosen the role of the aggressor here, so they're gonna be able to hold on to their boy.
They woke up and chose violence. Very good. That's exactly what we want out of the peaceful monks in the mountain. Perfect. All right. And yeah, you are actually right. Nalgudan does... Nalgudan? I think I'm pronouncing that incorrectly again. No, it is Nalgudan. All right, he's... All right, I got it right. Fantastic. He's managed to clean up his opponent's Gaohan. Does have his beefier defender there that stops a lot of the chump damage, and is... looks like Azrael's ready to start throwing out some attacks himself.
And again, we're seeing that, we were saying from the beginning, we kind of expect this game to come down to morale, right? Because neither of these decks really has the crazy powerful tempo to actually beat through those life points. And we're already seeing in these players' hands, there's a Calamity that'll be able to wipe the board. There's an Angel that'll be able to heal up. We're not going to see any kind of quick tempo-based victory like we did in some of these other games. We're going to have to grind it out. So...
the G there that just transforms everything just into spirit tokens. So it doesn't matter how cool and how buffed up your guys are, they're now a 3/3 token. Have fun.
I'm curious, does that work through Untouchable the same way Extirpate does?
I believe it does. It doesn't specifically... See, Untouchable means that you can't target something. Like, as it's asking you to select a target. However... G, for example, just says all cards on the battlefield have this effect happen to them. And because they're not being targeted by a player using an effect, it just plays off. Not a problem.
God, that makes a lot of sense.
So I'm curious here. I think both players are going to throw themselves up to 11 energy. They're just both going to drop the Calamities eventually. I wonder if they've thrown in the extra ones, because I'm pretty sure both players here had an extra Calamity on the sideboard, which would make things interesting, to say the least.
would give them even more ability to just absolutely shut down these games. Just say, nope, that's not how we're playing it today. Whatever you're doing, no morale problems, no nothing, everything's going away.
I can't wait to get to the point in about 5 to 10 minutes from now where we see 2 minutes of turn planning preparation just for one of the players to just Calamity everything. And then another 2-3 minutes later, the other player is just like, all right, I'll Calamity everything.
Alright, my turn. Boom. Goodbye.
Oh,
yeah, it's... These control mirrors, it's so difficult to figure out how you're going to win because you really have to try to figure out your game plan, 5-10 turns in advance, assuming that everything you're playing is going to die. And that's why those cards like Earn are such a big deal.
I will note that Nalgudan is ahead of morale just by a little bit. Barely any right now, but they are technically ahead, so they're doing well. And Azrael's just managed to play out the Triple Sages Stand United card, which is decent. They did have an extra copy of that in their hand, so they want to try and get them out as soon as possible. You don't want to have extra ones of those just clogging up your hand. It's super annoying. But I'm just expecting the G to come out from Nalguidan in the next turn or two to just, offset a lot of that extra potential tempo that he's got going on.
Yeah, just all of these mages are gonna become adorable little flying spirits. They're not getting that much done. Oh, that was a huge morale hit, though.
Yeah, Ling Bao managed to get through and deal a fair bit of morale damage. So yeah, now Guidan definitely wants to try and get the G out as soon as possible because we want to get rid of that as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah, that Ling Bao, we were talking about actual win conditions, right? That dragon that just goes straight through to fight against the morale. Even more so, we're not even bothering to target the life total. We're going for that delicious blue bar that Ling Bao wants to eat up.
That could have been the potential early misplay that costs Nalguidan the game. On like turn 2 or 3, they threw down transform effects onto the Gao Han, thinking that, oh yeah, this is a decent target for it. But these big guys happening now are probably much more important, and now he's just out of targets. Like, he doesn't have the Cutify, he doesn't have any other transform effects. The only thing he has is G, who's going to come out behind on tempo.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way you have to think about these control mirrors. You can't spend your tools like you're usually able to against aggro or a mid-range deck, where you're just trying to hold your control of the board, figure out where you're doing. You almost have to, from the beginning of the game, match up each tool in your hand into what you expect your opponent to be able to play. And if now Guidan ends up losing the game, that's definitely something we can point out as a significant deviation from that plan.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to be seeing some Daodes doing some stuff. A lot of action coming through. Actually, no, I lied. Not a whole lot of action coming through. Happens.
Now Guidan going ahead and taking that resource up, like you said. Azriel looking to do it a turn later. It's quite possible we're just going to see this Calamity get ripped here.
Yep, does go to 11 resources. I think, did Azrael also buff his resources as well?
Azriel did now. Now Guidan did last turn. So they're both going to end up at 11. Azriel just coming in a turn behind, taking that turn off to get those sages up and running. And we'll go ahead and see if now Guidan feels like pulling the trigger on this Calamity, just sending everything away.
I reckon he's seen that now Guidan's made it to 11. He's basically written off everything on his board as like, it's probably going to die. He hasn't even moved his guys out to like the assault zone, which like could have been that little bit of extra damage or pressure if now Guidan doesn't play out the Calamity. But he's just like, I accept that this is an eventual reality. I'm getting hit with the Calamity no matter what. Bring it on.
And that's actually really interesting, right? Because this is where that kind of mind game comes in. Now, Guidan doesn't have to pull the trigger on this Calamity. They could spend this turn getting more resources, drawing more cards. But the issue with that is if they take another hit from that Ling Bao, that's scary.
Yeah, it's definitely going to put them on death's door, and then they would be only a short 12 turns away from losing.
Yeah.
We have fun here.
Oh, we're doing our best. Are we doing it? Is it calamitous time?
Now, Guidan's really thinking long and hard about this.
I wonder what the other line is that now Guidan's thinking through if we're not dropping the Calamity here. Maybe they were just thinking of drawing a couple cards this turn just to delay it.
I mean, they did the Cutify out. That could potentially have been, an answer to this specific thing. But he does throw out the Calamity, just wants to reset the board. Let's do it again later.
Yeah, it feels like this Calamity is solid enough with the reset that I don't think there's a particular reason not to drop it. And we're gonna see Ling Bao come back down, but that should be cutified right up.
Ooh, I just thought of a nasty play here because technically now Guidan had priority there. What if, in response, Azriel played out his other united front? So he just wiped.
Oh.
Azriel's just like, all right, do it again.
That would definitely be a rough moment.
Just a little bit nutty. Unfortunately, he plays it safe, chooses to opt into being within range to Calamity himself. Also, just a quick little flex there, it does have the foil Lance of Jinhai in his hand, looking crisp, doing well.
Absolutely beautiful.
But, you know, it looks pretty.
This avatar of Ling Bao is being threatening, but I get the feeling that it's about to look absolutely adorable.
Very. Looking at Nalguiden's hand, does have the Vandalizers there. I think that might be an answer to Purifying Stone, if I'm correct. You reckon that's the play there?
That is probably what these Vandalizers are here for. I think I don't know if we're gonna see that here or not, because it definitely feels like the big threat here is this Ling Bao that we need to make sure we're dealing with. Feels like maybe we put down our own avatar and we do a Cutify this turn, just to make sure we take less morale damage.
Alright, so United Front comes out, now Guiden playing his own. Azrael, just going to take another 4 damage from that, not a huge deal to them, that's completely fine. Dude gets buffed up, feeling good. And the repair coming out, so to heal up that 18 damage that he's taken if he really
Oh my goodness. Why is that still in your deck? This is post-sideboard. Why do you think that matters, my friend?
I reckon he's playing a bit of 3-dimensional chess. He's like predicting, oh, my opponent's just going to do this. He's not necessarily thinking on it. Oh, the Purifying Stone's coming out hard and fast here.
Okay, we're gonna purify these sages. We're saying the sages are not sufficiently pure. They gotta get out of here.
Knowing what I know about where the lore goes next, unfortunately, that's a sentence that very much rings true. But I won't speak anymore. You heard nothing, and there's no there's no video evidence or VoD of me spoiling anything, so it never happened, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Take notes, chat. We don't get these slip ups often. Gotta make sure we're getting on those.
Oof, double vandalize onto the crystals. That's pretty harsh. But
we're seeing this avatar just chill back in the support zone. He's just hanging out. He doesn't want to get in there yet.
I mean, it is getting a buff because, now Guiden's not attacking. And, the big condition of this guy is if you didn't get attacked last turn, I get stronger. So he's not getting attacked, and now he's getting stronger.
The question is, how long are we going to wait before we send in this dragon?
Well, he probably left it in the support zone, assuming that it was going to get targeted by a transform effect. He's probably feeling pretty safe now that the entire turn went through and that didn't happen. But
I guess the other issue is that while this is unstoppable, it also only has 6 hit points. So the sages, if the sages decide to jump in and block, they can block this dragon boy down pretty well.
But the sages would have to fly to do that. That guy does have flying, meaning that, they would need to have something that has flying or reach to deal with it. I believe both of these decks do have the Lance of Jinhai, the foil one that we're seeing in...
that isn't... I'm sorry, I thought that was another avatar of Ling Bao. That is an avatar of Yuan Shi. I got the wrong avatar there.
Yeah,
there we go.
He's going out.
Okay, we got so many dragons. So that one's just gonna hang out there and pump up, trying to get that one-shot level of power in.
Alright, while this is all going down, let's take a moment to check in with the chat. There's been some people hanging out and chatting and stuff since we jumped into the game. We should take a second to shout out. Apparently, Nalgadan's girlfriend's in chat. Hope you're having a fantastic time. Hopefully, it brings it home, but we can't make any promises right now. Azrael's putting in some crazy work. Also, a quick shout out to What If Red. Speak for yourself. I want to listen to Jason for 40 turns. All right, let's go.
Chat's on our side. They know we're having a good time. It might be a long one, but we'll stay buckled up. We'll hang out with you. It'll all be good.
Yeah, as Kevcast pointed out as well, one urn would probably win the game by itself, and just neither player had. So, like, yeah, we were totally on top of that, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the players were. Again, I think this just comes back to both players just believing, oh, no one else is going to play triple DOD. This is the finals, and triple DOD has like a very niche place. No one's going to risk it playing triple DOD, right? I don't need. Who else is going to play? And now here we are. In the mirror, everything is going great. I'm eating some lovely biscuits. The wafers that you pretend are cigarettes. You guys have those in the States?
No, or if we do, I have not checked into those. So, I will note though that talking about this urn, as powerful as Shunhell's urn is, I think what happens if Shunhell urn shows up is that it gets vandalized, unfortunately.
I don't think you can vandalize it. I don't think it. I'm pretty sure it has like it's immune to being targeted or something. I could be wrong.
I'm looking at the urn right now. I pulled up the text to make sure. This is we're making some 10/10 spirits with flying, but I see nothing about the urn protecting itself. I think what happens is the urn gets slammed down. It's ready to take away the game in only a short 10 or 20 turns, and then a cat pushes it off the edge of a table.
I mean, the rebuttal that I'd have to that is if that happens, they're now not vandalizing your purifying stones, which means that you've got that little bit of extra power.
That's fair. It's still definitely a good card to have, right? It forces your opponent to have the answer. It puts some pressure on. It keeps your purifying stones safe. But I don't think that just slamming the urn, as much as we would love to have that be "Oops, I win," I do not know that would in fact immediately cause victory.
So the way that I see it is that you have infinite number of ways to clean up your opponent's board. You have approximately 3 ways to clean up their artifacts. So if you have more than 3 artifacts, presto change.
Okay.
Plus, like, also, artifacts aren't destroyed by Calamity, I think.
Correct. Calamity leaves those artifacts alone. That is not its job.
So I really think that, like, while it's not necessarily I play this, I win, I think it's more of a case of I play this, I'm much more likely to win.
Okay, so here's the real question though. I think I know the real answer to the DOD mirror. I have the hot tech. Are you ready?
Go for it.
I'm pretty sure we got to play Shrine to the Heavens, my dude.
Okay,
I think the actual answer, if you want to sideboard to the DOD mirror, is you play like 1 or 2 Shrine to the Heavens, and you start slowly charging it up, putting those monks to work as they make their united front in front of the shrine. And I think that would honestly win you the game faster than your opponent could actually do anything about.
I believe that you're wrong, but I can't quantify how. So it's easier for me to just say, I think you're right. I think
you're wrong. You have to be wrong. I feel that you're wrong. That sounds terrible.
I have a guttural response to that, but
I have a guttural response to DOD mirrors, so we're on the same level now.
Also, Kevin said something in chat, and I hate him for it. Don't. If 10 minutes from now the game teases.
Oh god, no! Why would you do that to us, Kev? I thought we were friends.
Shut the fuck up! No, bad.
Oh.
No, we should kind of allow cursing on our channels, though we should do it. I apologize.
Oh my goodness. Everybody knows we're just playing. Oh, has anything happened in the game recently? No, I don't.
Avatar's out on both sides, and there's some monks. Anyway, what shows are you watching recently?
Let's see. I was getting into Magicians. That was fun. The other one, me and my girl have really gotten into Taskmaster recently. Have you seen that one?
I just discovered that like a week ago. I've only been watching like compilations on YouTube, but that's fun.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a great one. They get these comedians and they have to do the most ridiculous things, and they try to get around the rules in very silly ways, and it's absolutely arbitrary and not competitive at all. But that's kind of the point. It's a wonderful thing to just kind of sit down with and go, yeah, we're having a good time. Don't worry about it too much. Everybody's just messing around.
I would love to play something like that. Like, I think that's now one of my dreams, is to just be on the production staff of the Australian version when it eventually happens. Because, like, we try and localize everything here. Like, Big Brother was a thing in America, and Australia's like, hey, what if we did Big Brother? And that was fun. And, you know, we try to steal the best shows that we can from the United States.
What I'm hearing is that I need to secede and come be an Aussie instead. That's the real answer here.
It's pretty cool because instead of you know, we don't have guns, but we do have free healthcare. You know, so depending on your political leaning, it's either the greatest or worst.
Oh God, please come take over. Do you feel like annexing America? Because that sounds like the better way to go.
I mean, I love from Australia named Jim Jeffries, and I think he says it best when he was like, you know, America has a shit a week, and it's like, oh, you know, thoughts and prayers. We need more guys with guns to stop the guys with guns. Australia had one mass shooting. It was the biggest in recorded history. So the Prime Minister came out and said, no more guns! And he took away everyone's guns. And, like, everyone got upset. But, hey, we've had one shooting in the last 5 years. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that I disagree with anything you're saying. I'm pretty heavily on your side. It just turns out that we have less power to do anything about that than you guys right now. These monks are kind of representing those pacifistic values that we're talking about here, right? We know that nobody's going to be fighting anybody in this match.
Just like the political system of the United States, we are in a constant struggle of two forces that are basically the same side, struggling with itself. And we're just going to be stuck in this stalemate for the next hour.
Oh my God! Stop saying true things. Stop saying true things that hurt me. You're not allowed to be this right. That's not unacceptable, sir.
We have fun.
Oh my goodness! I'm getting called out live. This is what I have to deal with, chat. Oh wait, I think I saw another dragon hit. So we're all the way down to 50 morale. We're almost halfway there for Azrael here. Almost.
We're getting there. Go Azrael.
Oh my goodness. I actually see a really important comment by chat. It says, do we know who's drawn more cards? And I'm not gonna lie, when I get into ladder matches in these control mirrors, because a lot of what I play on ladder, I play triple Varroa control, so I do actually try to win the game eventually by attacking dragons. But I'm on the same page as these monks defending themselves. But knowing who's going to deck out first and start losing morale is actually kind of a big deal.
I think that the current matchup is 20-19 because now Guidan shuffled their hand back in and drew one less card when they did.
And oh no! If that's the decider, that's so bad.
If that's what decides the game, a move that happened 45 minutes ago. Oh my God.
Can you actually imagine if in the DOG mirror the absolutely 100% correct play is to always mulligan so you have one more card in your deck?
What if the play becomes mulligan 3 times? Just the mirror match of people mulliganing once or twice.
Who can mulligan harder? How many cards can I discard so that I don't have to draw them so that you deck out first?
I'm just not gonna start with a hand. I'll get it later. I'll be fine.
It'll be fine. I don't need to play cards. What are you gonna do? Attack me? That's not gonna happen.
One calamity and we'll be back to square.
Oh, wow. All right. We just saw a huge morale hit. All the sages going down. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
All right, giant board clear coming out. Asriel now down to 36 morale. Is looking through his deck to see what solutions he has left.
But this is, honestly, this is kind of what I was talking about with the idea of just kind of not playing these sages. Like, having them on the board didn't really do that much, and it just kind of hurt us. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure what they were doing there. They were just, it felt like they were just kind of living to die.
They were both kind of just hanging out the support zone a little bit. Like, I'm like, I don't want to attack yet because I'm gonna get killed. But like, you don't want to attack either, so we're just gonna sit here.
And eventually these mass removal spells kill them. Like, they do 4 damage over and over. It'll eventually get through. And that, I don't know, that makes me just not want to summon the sages. That's kind of what I was saying at the beginning of this game. It feels like you're almost not supposed to commit resources that are going to cost you morale in a morale-based mirror match.
I'd be really curious to see if we get...
Sorry, what were you going to say? You first.
Alright, I was going to say, I'm wondering if we're going to see G hit the board here while now Guiden has the board advantage. That might be an interesting thing to, like, it would force your opponent to use a Calamity or reveal that they don't have one, both of which are potentially winning situations for now Guiden, depending on how he wants to do everything following after that.
Sure, maybe if we can get G down to force a Calamity here, then we can potentially get the avatars to get some pressure on afterward. I could potentially see that.
Could potentially be the play. It makes your opponent think that you've overextended your resources, when really you want them to burn theirs, so then you can play what you actually want to play. That might be the thing.
The sages are finally actually getting in. They're threatening some pressure here.
Alright, so we're actually seeing Asriel's health brought down to 75. Having this triple DOD match come down to who manages to hit the other person in the face harder, despite all of their morale.
There's no way. There's no way.
Surely not, but like, it'd be fun, right? These are the where it's like, you know, it's when you think about pushing your old granny down the stairs, you're not actually going to do it, but it brings a smile to your face, right?
Okay, you're not allowed to come after my country anymore when Australia's here permanently thinking about pushing their grandmas downstairs. All right?
Not permanently.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm only gonna temporarily push her down the stairs. She'll be fine in a minute. Don't worry about it, Mom.
Just when she gives you some snark about how, you know, you're not taking and then you take seconds and then she makes fun of your weight, then you think about pushing her down. You don't actually do it.
Okay.
It's always thinking about bad. You're not doing anything bad. We have enough animals in life, and, like, you know, our flora and fauna is already out to kill us here in Australia. We don't need to worry about our family members too. It's chill. It's chill.
Alright,
like
so we're
like an expert survival game, you know?
This avatar of Ling Bao, again, just kind of expecting that it's going to be targeted, refuses to attack, refuses to defend. Okay, he's finally going to go into it. Asriel's had enough. The big dragon's getting in there.
Of course. And we're also seeing now Guiden has his own. He's going to get spiritualized, though, so that's going to be a pretty easy clean up. One thing I will note is that all of the sages at the moment on now Guiden's side are both looking pretty safe in the way that they're not going to get taken out by a quick Yuan-Shi's Wrath. Even a double Yuan-Shi's Wrath is only going to take out like 2 of them.
True, that Sage of Strength has definitely set us up. We are ready for any wrath that is trying to come our way. And if this Avatar of Ling Bao, if there's no blocker for that, that's going to start putting on, I think, a faster clock than these sages are, significantly.
I'm also seeing both players slowly, like, running out of clean options, and they're both drawing into their decks. Like, that small little offset that they had earlier on about, you know, 1 or 2 cards difference, I don't think that either of them are necessarily considering that. We did just see Asriel look over their own deck. They've got 15 cards left. Not 100% sure what Nal Guiden's at the moment, but you know, they've both drawn cards this turn, so it's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand getting scared when you're low on answers, but unless you have a specific game plan, it feels, at least to me, it feels almost always wrong to be looking for those card draw opportunities in this kind of match, because it feels like this match is going to go to decking way more often than it's not.
I mean, like, it could end up being settled on health. It could end up being settled on morale. It very likely still would be. But yeah, deck out would become a very real thing as well. And I think that part of it's going to come down to who has the guts to actually take that decisive step. Seeing some combat play out here.
Another big morale hit as those sages suicide themselves into the big dragon that just exhausts and comes right on back.
Yeah, those sages, of course, do have very high morale costs. And while they're not necessarily the most vulnerable of cards, having to play 3 of them out every single time you drop down one of those Stand United is a bit of a detriment to the deck here. And I think that it could be one of the potential deciding factors, having that extra 20 morale on the board ready for your opponent to just slowly, eventually control it.
Again, I feel, honestly, the more we get into this, the more I feel more and more justified with what I said at the beginning. Just stop playing your creatures, man. Like, you are not progressing your actual game plan by putting all these sages into play. And I think this is, like, these are both obviously very good players, but you get this interesting situation that almost never comes up, because even for someone who's played the game for so long and played so many different moments, how often have you actually had to play a full-on, nobody bothers to win the game control mirror? That just doesn't happen most of the time.
I mean, there was a small period of time where it was happening somewhat consistently around 2018 during, the death of the original game, where triple DoD and double COV and I think it was one Flame Dawn were like the meta picks. The game was very balanced back then. It was like, one of 3 things would win you the game or you would lose the game. But, with a lot of balance passes coming into Infinity Wars Classic, there's a whole lot more variety, which we've actually seen, I think, 5 or 6 different purity combinations coming out of people. So, the game's definitely in a much healthier place now. The question now becomes, where does that leave triple DoD in the new mix?
Yeah, we've seen these, like, when they've been on screen, we've seen these aggro decks dominating today. So definitely much more on the line of this ready to push in the aggression than just kind of, sit here and bore their opponent to death. Oh.
Alright, so I think we should probably pay a little bit of attention to the board state. At the moment, we've got 24 to 36 morale. It feels like we are potentially 1 turn away from something crazy happening and the game just suddenly ending. Cutify comes out onto the avatar there. Decent-ish choice.
Yep, and the board wipe is just going to wipe that avatar, send it back to the exhausted zone. It'll be fine in a minute. But now, this avatar is representing lethal every turn for the rest of the game, right? So this has to be answered right now. Unfortunately, we do see that Calamity available from Nalguiden.
Has the Calamity. He even has the Spiritualize if he just wants to keep the board as in its current state. But I don't think he would want that, because he'd still be a turn or 2 behind whatever else is going to be played. And I think the safest thing here is just to throw down the Calamity. I don't think he's necessarily going to see that happening.
So here's the really interesting thing, right? We're watching Azriel check these cards left in deck numbers, and while Azriel is drawing, I'm actually a lot more okay with Azriel drawing than Nalguiden is. Because every time Azriel goes to draw that extra card, he's setting himself up to make sure he is still ahead in total deck out count of Nalguiden. So the pressure is actually on Nalguiden here to find a way to make a move.
He knows because that 1 or 2 more ahead. That's all he needs to do.
Exactly. He's willing to draw as long as his opponent draws first. So I think actually Azriel has had this deck out condition in mind from a long ways away.
He's definitely making it seem that way. He's looking through his deck. He does actually, I think I saw he has 2 Calamities left in his deck. If he wants to play the deck out angle, I mean, it's going to take him another 10, 15 minutes to win the game, but he might just be on point to win it here.
Yeah, and like I've been saying from the beginning, right? When you're playing these games, you need to be looking at the end of the game from the beginning of the game. When you're in a full-on control mirror, a lot of other card games, these control mirrors will go to deck out, and deck out will be just as soon as you deck out, you lose the game. In our game here, all that happens is you start losing 10 morale a turn, but that will generally be enough to win you the game as long as you're a couple of cards ahead in the deck. So from the beginning of this game, Azrael has been keeping track of their cards versus their opponents, and they've only been using that actual draw as opposed to that shuffle back into the deck when Nalguidan does to make sure they stay ahead.
And like, if you only lose 10 morale when you deck out, that's okay, because your opponent's on 15. You're 2 turns away from it.
Yeah, this is looking like it's going to be really rough for Nalguidan, because that's the problem with these kind of hardcore control mirrors, and they don't seem that interesting for the first bit of the game, but once you get down to the end, what you realize is that all of those decisions in the first set of turns actually mattered the whole time, right? Because this little bit of morale and couple of cards that Azrael's managed to push ahead means the pressure's on Nalguidan, and they have to keep trying to make something happen. But the problem is, in this kind of match, trying to make something happen is often what gets you behind.
I think one of the last plays that he has here is to throw out the G and force your opponent to at least use one of their calamities, knowing that there's a couple left. Because, like, if you get to a certain point where your opponent has nothing but calamities left and all you can do is draw, you've essentially lost the game at that point, where, you know, you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't. He needs to do something here. I think that might be one of the last real options that he has, outside of, you know, potentially getting a lucky hit with an avatar, but I don't think Azrael's going to give him that chance.
No, as Azrael's sitting here with this Purifying Stone, sitting here with Calamity, Cutify, I can't imagine that this Avatar of Link Bow is going to get a hit in.
I wouldn't imagine.
There's no reason Azrael should ever let that happen.
Alright, we'll see how these go. Purification Stone is going to do its thing.
I mean, we do get to get in for some actual damage here. This is 21 damage, right? Oh no, that one's gonna go down. Sorry, it's 15 damage. 15 damage. This is theoretically a 3-turn clock, even from this humbled avatar.
I mean, it could be, but I don't think was that like threatened by it. They do still have the Calamity in hand. At any point, they can just decide, I want to reset the board, and bam, the board's reset. Like, they have that ability, and, like, you know, they feel very safe right now. I would at least imagine that they would.
Yeah, this feels very much like a checkmate moment, right? And even this Jade Witch coming down is just going to throw the avatar back. You're just never going to be able to put on enough pressure. And honestly, I've had moments like this where you can see the end coming far enough out. You can concede 5 or 6 turns before the end of the game. I understand you might not want to from Nalguidan's spot. This is a top-level tournament. We want to make sure that we are getting every possible thing that we can.
Absolutely. I mean, we did see a few people surrendering relatively early, but those are veterans who have played every single matchup. They know their outs, and if they don't have those outs, they know the outcome of the match. This is much more difficult because both players have the same exact deck. They both have the exact same outs. They both have the exact same play conditions. There's no scissors, paper, rock tournament here. It's just who can play a better paper, essentially.
Oh, and he has 2 calamities now. Just how are you going to get through these resources? I kind of wish we could do like a hover to get a deck count on both of these players, but it feels like there's just, and there goes the Calamity, just popping it off because he has the second one. It feels like there's just not enough time left in the deck of Nalguidan to be able to get through this power from Azrael.
So, I think, I just saw Azrael's on 6, Nalguidan's on 5. He's doing his best to stay exactly 1 card ahead, and there's not many answers that he has left in his deck. I don't know if Nalguidan's going to have any real way to, force through 3 Calamities and 2 Cutifies and, another Jade Witch coming down. I don't think they've got it here.
Yeah, there's just too many answers from us. Asriel's considering just not even popping the Calamity this turn, just because they don't feel they need to.
I mean, they could take this 28.
You can just casually take this damage, right?
But even better, you just chuck a Cutify on it. You take the 4 damage. It is what it is. Keep the Calamity for the next turn.
Cutify, Jade Witch, and the thing is, now Guidan's sitting here trying to not commit too much into the Calamities that he knows are there, but he's just going to run out of time. And if every single one of these cards, these Cutifies, these Calamities, this Jade Witch is buying a full turn, then now Guidan doesn't have any way to get through. But the problem is, Asriel knows that, and as soon as now Guidan tries to put down more than one threat, the second Calamity is going to hit. I feel like this is checkmate.
Could be. And also, the exact situation we saw 15 minutes ago, the tables have completely turned. Asriel going to throw double Vandalize down onto Nalguidan. So the exact thing we saw happen 15 minutes ago is just happening in reverse now.
See, I am going to put one little poke here. This is why we do have a forced timer on our tournament matches in many other card games. Generally, you will not be able to take a certain amount of time, but I also understand why we just want to let these matches run their course.
We might have to look into changing our timing rules so that we're not left waiting, 8 minutes for 3 turns to play out, knowing how every single one of them is going to play out. Those are conversations that we'll have with the actual dev team, and of course with the players to engage them, figure out what their needs are, figure out what meets as many people's needs as possible, and go from there. Because hey chat, we're engaging with chat. Go ahead and chime in with us. How do you feel about turn timers or game timers in regards to this interesting control mirror? Let us know in chat so we can pass that important knowledge on to the devs. Yeah, we'll take a look at that in 5 minutes when they hear that. I people just started saying, what the fuck, Jason? Australia's a land of monsters and stuff in response to me saying I'm thinking about pushing my granny down the stairs. Again, clarification, don't actually do it. Don't cause violence to other people. Think about violence as much as you like, but don't do it.
This is what this game has come down to. We've been sitting here for so long. We have to remind our chat not to hurt their family members, because it's been too.
Don't hurt your family.
When you've been in a DoD versus DoD game for too long, you can't even take it, and you somehow need to be reminded not to push your grandmother down the stairs. Jason's here for you. We've got your back, chat.
If I am ever in a situation where I'm stuck in game 3 of a triple DoD game and it's going to deck out, I would be thinking of committing a violence. So these are important safety announcements to make sure everybody knows, hey, don't do that.
Oh goodness. I mean, I wonder how many of their other games went to deck out like this, because again, I was talking about this from the beginning of the game, right? It feels like if both players are playing this correctly, you can almost expect every game to go to deck out. And it kind of feels like I don't want to be too harsh here, but it kind of feels like this game has been misplayed by Nalguidan by choosing to draw any cards. And Asriel has just kind of capitalized on that misplay and just slowly, surely known exactly how this is going to go. And there's just no way out for them at this point. There's no way to get enough pressure on.
All right, one thing I will quickly note here as well. I looked at the records. Nalguidan won game 1, and Asriel won game 2, which means that post-sideboard, Asriel had it figured out. I think that the first game was probably won just by morale. And Azrael figured out and went into game 2 and was like, oh, I can play the deck out strategy, which is why game 2 probably took so long. And I don't know if Nalguidan's fully clocked onto that. I think they were probably looking at it as a 2-dimensional puzzle rather than a 3-dimensional puzzle, going, okay, how can I do more morale quicker, rather than the opposite, which is, okay, how can I avoid losing to deck out?
Yeah, I think Nalguidan may have clocked onto it, but just not quite in time, and we're kind of seeing the results of that here. This game, as crazy long and as much of a slog as it's been, I think at the end of the day is going to go to the person who understood the matchup better. It looks like Azrael understands how to play these absolutely grind out games where you just can't expect to really get a win off in any kind of normal way. And this is something, again, I feel like you could take it even a step further. I think you're not supposed to play your sages in this matchup.
Potentially, it might be a good idea sideboarding out the Stand United, just because that's a total of like 15 or 20 morale you'll have sitting on the board that your opponent's probably eventually going to get rid of. Like, that might be the play.
Just like the simple act of choosing to put units in play feels like it's a misplay in this matchup, which is so strange to say, but I think it's true.
It's completely counterintuitive and goes against everything that you, as an Infinity Wars Classic player, would know. Like, you need to have dudes on the board. And in this specific matchup, you need to not have dudes on the board, which is so weird. Oh.
Yeah, it's and that's what I was saying. Like, the true DoD tech is, I think, honestly, and I'm gonna double down on this. You said you felt it was wrong, but the more I've spent the last half an hour in this game, buddy, and I'm ready to say that I understand the way you're supposed to run this. I think the true DoD mirror tech is Shrine to the Heavens. I think that's the actual way you win this game.
Just get the sages, get them in the support zone, and just exhaust them every turn, and do the maybe. You
just sit there and you play a couple of units at a time, and your opponent just keeps trying to get them down, and yep, there it goes. Azrael takes it down in deck out fashion. The greater understanding of this absolutely horrific mirror bodying through to take it down. Well done, Azrael.
This was a bit of a monumental occasion for all the wrong reasons, but I'm so glad that I got to share it with everybody here and with you.
Oh.
This was fantastic. And Nalguidan is an absolutely phenomenal Hearthstone player, and they did a lot better than I thought they would. But Azrael just showing that they have that little bit of extra understanding of Infinity Wars Classic specifically, because this game in itself is just a completely different beast than you would see in traditional card games. So Azrael
I'll actually play back at you a little bit on that one. I think that this is a scenario that happens in a lot of different card games, and I will say that this is not a not knowing Infinity Wars better moment. This is a not understanding control mirrors in general better, because those absolutely hardcore control mirrors, anyone who's played Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering or Legends of Runeterra, you can know from those mirrors that the way this is going to end up, that deck out condition is something you have to keep in mind. I think that's actually a card games thing in general, and I want to give mad props to Azrael for understanding that. And it looks like from the 2-1 victory, figuring that out mid-match. So I don't think that's just Infinity Wars. I think that is a card game skill expression.
I'm so happy that we're finally done with that. Good game to Azrael. We'll be seeing who will actually qualify now, though, because after all of that, we still have the actual final qualifier match between Azrael and Mu28, who we saw earlier today.
Hopefully we will be getting into that shortly. Do we need to throw it to a quick break first, Jason?
I think that might be appropriate. We'll come back a little bit before the next game so we can catch up with chat. You guys are still a couple minutes behind. I'm sure that I'm going to be seeing a lot of comments about, change the turn timer and stuff. We'll engage with you all. We come back from a short break. See you in a moment.
Peace, y'all. All right, welcome back once again, everyone. After that absolutely riveting 40-card mirror match, we're here to bring you more of the same. No, please don't leave your computer. Technically, one of the control decks is different this time, we promise.
Yeah,
we're doing...
We have
we're doing
control decks, which is going to be...
It's better. I promise. It's technically... Tell them about the decks, Jace.
Compared to what we just went through, this is fresh. Mwah, chef kiss. Ooh, spicy. I want it. We've got Mu28 versus Nalguiden, both of which playing control, but different forms of control. Nalguiden, of course. So Azriel, of course, manning the triple DOD that we just saw for a full... Was it an hour? Can we get someone to check how long that actually went on for? And of course, we also have Mu28. Apparently, it was about 54 minutes. And we also have Mu28, who's playing double COV with Medi as well as their version of control.
Yeah, this is the deck we saw on screen earlier as well, with the Medi, the ability to constantly draft and cycle for new cards that it wants to look through, the ability to get that 15/15 into play whenever they want, and those extra fates, which can get rid of literally everything, including these avatars that want to come back over and over again.
So I am going to be interested in, I'm like 80, maybe even 90% sure that humbling the Medi here is the correct play. Like, it seems like the obvious one, but I'm curious to see if that gets potentially changed up, because the deck that Mew is running here does have some other pretty significant threats. Do they just let Medi do what they're going to do and just kind of, minimize the damage it does by nullifying its stats and making it a less impressive board presence? Or do they just get rid of it?
I have an answer to your question, but you're really, really not gonna like it. It's gonna make you sad. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is another hard control mirror, and if they're playing it correctly, I'm pretty sure you play from deck out for the beginning. I'm pretty sure you humble Medi, and I'm pretty sure you don't play creatures.
I was like 80% sure you were going to suggest Shrine to the Heavens again. I was ready for it.
I am! It's the right move! Neither of them have it in their decks, but it's the right way you'd actually win the game. Real talk, you can't, from your side of the board, and this is what we're going to be talking about for the next half hour. Strap the fuck in, chat. Here we go. You can't play Vault of the Void. You can't, because if those units die, you're going to draw 5 cards. And you might think that's a good thing, chat. You might think that the game, based on resources and power and control of the board and all these awesome mind games that drawing 5 cards would win you the game after making 2 10-10s, but no! That's going to lose you the game because you're going to deck out faster.
I have all the power and I have lost. That's the situation you're putting yourself in. It's such an oppressive situation to be in. I am curious if he plays out the Vault of the Void specifically to try and draw some attention to it, and then leaves one of his guys in the support zone. Maybe just leaves him in the back there. Let him do it. Force your opponent to try and expend resources to try and kill it when you have no intention of letting it die, and you have no intention of drawing those extra cards. But it's drawing focus. Could that be a potential play?
I wanna think about this for a sec here. I'm thinking about it. Don't the Void Touch have a morale cost? I think the Void Touch have a morale cost.
I believe they do. It's relatively small, but it does exist.
That I'm gonna still say that playing it at all is incorrect. I know that this is the thing people do not want to hear, and I don't think it's how the players are actually going to choose to play the game, but I honestly believe that playing cards is incorrect. I think every time Mew has activated that their commander that's making those 2/2s is a misplay.
I mean, we did just see Overcharge Bolt just throw away that Vault of the Void. Dude doesn't want to deal with it, doesn't think it's a good idea.
Yep.
Decides that he just wants to throw it away. It's not worth anything to him. Could be that he's got more in his deck and he's playing them later. I'm still hoping that's what we see. I'm also understanding that it's probably not what we're going to see.
Right, and again, Azriel knows what's up. This hurts my soul, man, but Azriel knows what's up. You saw they weren't doing anything else with their mana there. Azriel had the option to straight draw a card, and they chose to shuffle back into their deck instead because They absolutely know that drawing cards is illegal. Playing cards is illegal. In this matchup, when you know your opponent's deck, playing the game is not allowed.
It's a real unfortunate situation to be in. Welcome to the game. I hope you enjoy your stay in the corner. Don't touch your deck or you lose.
Right? Do you remember those old Flash games from like 15 years ago? Am I old? I might be old. Those Flash games from a long time ago when literally all you had to do to win the game was not touch the button. And it would try to do everything in its power to fool you into touching the button. But all you had to do to win was not touch the button and be patient. The problem is, I think that's what we've gotten into here. I think we've recreated like a 2000s era Flash game.
I do want to quickly make a side note here, not relevant to this game specifically, but I've faced a lot of community backlash time and time again for making like decks that are suboptimal. And when they say suboptimal, they mean that's a 45 card deck. Who's laughing?
No.
Who's the big brain who's planning 5 moves ahead and doesn't want to ever lose to deck out? That's right. It's your boy Jason. I'm the only one that knows how to play this game.
Oh no! Wait! It goes deeper though, Jason. Jason, it gets worse than that because we talked about like one way to win these crazy control mirrors would be the Shrine to the Heavens. Like that's one answer. But you're talking about playing a 45 card deck. Do you know what the other way is? It's so much worse. So much worse. Are you ready?
Okay.
Jason, it's time for fun.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Jason, you don't understand. We need to have time for fun.
Okay. Alright, so I want to quickly bring it back to the game at the moment. We're getting a little bit distracted. I think we're still in Goof's mood from the previous game, but this is a qualification match. This one actually matters. Let's focus up a bit. We are seeing that G's gone down, and this is going to be a bit of an interesting thing, because are they going to take the time to just death ray this? Because we're already seeing a bunch of cards being expended onto them. Are they just going to, clean them up and get rid of them, or is this just going to be, how the rest of the game plays out? Also, I do want to note, both players have opted into upping their resources twice.
It's because, it's because there's nothing else to do. Yes, you can death ray this G. There's no... Here's the problem, my dude. I know we're trying to make this G matter, but honestly, that thing could have sat there for the next, 10 turns and done absolutely nothing of relevance.
Relatively true. I mean, the one particular thing that it would have done is eventually get sucked up by the Calamity, in which, you wouldn't have been able to transform everything anyway. But you don't really care because it would have just got sucked up by the Calamity anyway. Like, we saw Medi is now been turned into a little spirit guy. He's a 3/3. That's adorable.
So here's
cards.
So I'm gonna take a minute and get serious here about this matchup because, and I'm gonna drop some knowledge bombs on chat because I actually didn't know I was going to be casting this when I heard about this tournament. I had actually originally thought I was going to be playing it, and I was getting into some seriously deep level rabbit hole anti-mirror metagaming nonsense to try to figure out how I was going to beat these control mirrors, because I had 2 decks, one of which is my super secret tech deck that I'm not going to share, but the other of which was going to be a version of this triple roar. And I went deep into the rabbit hole and I figured out the actual answer to the mirror. None of this meme stuff, none of this time for fun, which is hilarious and goofy and having a good time. I don't think it's even the Shrine to the Heavens I was talking about, though that is good in DoD mirrors. I think there is one true endgame mirror tech that Varroar has that can absolutely hard win the game because of the way that these mirrors play out. And I'm curious, can you guess what I'm going to say this time, Jason? Out of all of the nonsense that I've suggested, can you figure it out?
For the meme, I want to say Shrine to the Heavens, but I know that's not it. I want to take a guess. Is it the Rancid?
No, Rancid's cute, but it's way too small. It's way too small. The real...
Small. It becomes like 80-80. It's way too small?
Yep, it's adorable. Doesn't even matter. There
I
is
had no idea.
the one true answer to this kind of mirror is siphon structure. Because when you're playing this mirror correctly, almost every turn of the game past turn 9, all you're doing is upping your resource count. You actually get to the point where you win the game by dropping something like 3 siphon structures at 30 plus each.
I mean, we're already seeing that he's buffed himself up to 14 resources now. Asriel also on 13, so that is a potential thing. Also, something worth noting, Asriel, the DoD player, is on less morale than the person who's versing DoD.
Well, that's because Asriel's been playing units, and Mew knows better. Mew understands you can't click that button, man. You have to look at that big, shiny, blinking button and say, no, I will not click you. I will never click you. I will sit here and do absolutely nothing much more powerfully than you ever can.
Asriel's seen that he's up against someone who's not triple DoD and is like, finally, I can play the game. And
Asriel just drew 3 cards. Okay, he's committed.
Oh boy.
Okay, we're Asriel has decided we're not going to deck out. Asriel is here to prove me wrong. I'm reaching back in time. I'm saying to chat, all right, if you're right that we're not going to deck out, Asriel agrees with you, and he's going to try to crank up the pressure. Because that was just a triple card draw right there. Asriel's decided he wants to try to win this game.
He's got, I think that's 4 Yuanchi's Wraths in his hand. He's somehow copied some of them. I'm not 100% sure how he's done that. Wait, no, the one in the middle is an Avatar, not a Yuanchi's Wrath.
Correct.
That's interesting. He's thrown away 4 cards here.
Yep, Asriel is just deciding and this is why, actually. This is why Asriel...
his monsters!
Here's the problem. Asriel knows that he can't win by deck out, because Mew has those Gather Thoughts. Mew will always win the deck out game.
He's threw away all of his creatures, because he knows if he has them, he'll be tempted to play them. So now he's left with nothing but avatars and spells in his hand.
Yep. It's the only thing that matters at this point is these avatars, because Asriel 100% knows he can't win via deck out because of these recycles and these Gather Thought. There's absolutely no way that deck out is a win condition. Mew has this siphon structure, so if Asriel doesn't try to put some kind of pressure on, that eventually Mew will just burn him out.
And I am so, like, every single time I think I understand this game, I just have a mind-blowing explosion as my eyes are opened and I attune myself to the 4th dimensional plane of existence and understanding of what the hell is going on.
I think we're probably going to see this avatar get extirpated, or Calamity. Mew's going to do something to it. But
I was going to go out there and didn't, unfortunately, find it. I think he whiffed on just a Death Ray there. Not a huge spell to whiff on, not a huge thing to be upset that you've missed, but, you know, still, you never like to see it at all, you know?
Well, if you think about it, this avatar, whenever it dies, gets exhausted. So if you play Death Ray on the avatar, and the avatar just sits there, then it's kind of the same as if you successfully Death Rayed it.
Question. Why is he drawing again?
Because he's frustrated and wants to go to the next game.
Is he just trying to deck himself out? Is that yeah, just for the meme?
Because here's the thing. What I was talking about just now, that the ultimate answer to this ridiculous mirror is just siphoning someone. Mew has those in his main deck. Mew has siphon structure in the main deck. So
he's
Asriel
19 resources.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. I was serious when I said you can get up to more than 30 resources with these decks and these siphon structures, and you can actually just hard go in and burn out your opponent. I actually suspect that they played earlier in the tournament, and Asriel has seen this happen, which is why he's just frantically drawing, trying to do anything, because he knows this game is already over.
It could be that he, like, I think I saw him talking about this in the chat. He joked about, can I just forfeit game 1 so I can jump directly into the sideboard? it could be that he understands, he's gotten a little bit of a feel for his opponent. He knows kind of what to expect. And now he's ready to just, lose out the game because he's got that preparation for game 2 and 3, which is where he hopes to actually do something with his sideboarded in tech.
Yeah, I think that this is Azriel was only kind of half joking before. Can we tell chat about what went down before this match? Can we leak?
I mean, if it's something that's publicly knowledgeable, then yeah, sure, go for it.
I'm kind of down to leak here. There was a joke made by Azriel prior to the match when we were attempting to set the match up, where Azriel said, I don't know, man. I'm not sure I want to play game 1. Can we just fast forward to game 2 and I'll sideboard and I'll try again later? Because I think that was only kind of half a joke. I think Azriel knew this was going to happen the whole time.
A little bit. I checking the graph. These two did actually verse in the first match of the day. So they do very much have a decent understanding of what each other's decks do. And in the first matchup, Mew actually took it. They then lost to What If Red, putting them into the loser bracket finals where we're watching them play now. But both players know, what the opponent does and how they have their specific win conditions. Mew's figured it out. Bumping his resources, absolute maximizing them. He knows that his opponent's not going to play anything over the top aggressive, and even if they try to, he's just going to Calamity it. He's feeling safe, he's feeling good. And Azriel, I hope that they have a sideboard tech to try and beat this control matchup. Yeah,
the thing is, Mew has their sideboard tech main deck, which is why Azriel just kind of didn't want to worry about this too much, because as I said, I think the ultimate sideboard tech is these siphon structures, right? Because it forces Azriel to try to find something. Otherwise, once Mew gets to 40 resources, they just fire off 3 of those in a row, and you're dead. Yep, there's the resign button.
Yeah, he's figured out what's happening, and that's good game, well played. Game 1 going to Mew 28. We're gonna let them sideboard, and I want to see what Azriel brings in for game 2.
Let's look at what Azriel can do to try to make a plan here. But this is going to be rough because Mew with these extirpates and these siphon structures, Mew's ready to fight. Mew is ready to go from the get-go. This is going to be tough.
I think that double DOD has a lot of potential power, and throwing the Medi on as just a side pocket flex, giving you access to extirpate, and also just giving you the unknown variable that is drafting a card from anywhere, I think that's been a real potential power point that most people just weren't necessarily expecting. I mean, I didn't necessarily think that we were going to be seeing Medi at this tournament at all. I'm very glad we are. I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool moment. And so what's the plan here from Azriel? What are we trying to cause to happen to say we can win this game?
Well, looking at the sideboard that he's got, I don't know if there's too many things. I know that he's got I think he has Grave Rob, which means that he could potentially stop a lot of the recursion happening on Mew's side by taking away the highest cost control spells from their graveyard so they can't just gather thoughts and chuck them back in. But, what else do they necessarily have? I don't think there's much that they have access to here.
Yeah, you can stop the recursion, but unless you have some way to put pressure on this kind of inevitable control deck, again, they're just going to power up their resources. They're just going to keep charging it up, and eventually they're just going to drain you away. Right?
I'm just dealing with something off to the side here.
No worries. It's okay. Me and chat can hang out. I'm looking at some messages from chat again from 5 minutes ago from the past. I'm watching them talk about my terrible ideas for how to sideboard for control mirrors and the pain that I'm causing. And I gotta say, I'm sorry, chat. I speak the truth. I cannot help it. This is the
Sorry, I just want to point out that I love the comment from Tipperax from earlier. Small brain, 40 card deck. Big brain, 45 card deck. Biggest brain, 100 card deck. Galactic brain, 100 time for fun deck.
You will never deck me out. I will hold this entire tournament hostage.
I am going to RNG into the exact cards I need to survive long enough to outdeck you. That's the game plan. That's the play.
Oh, I feel like this is Infinity War's version of we don't negotiate with terrorists. There are some things that get you a ban. Not many, but there are some things that get you a ban from tournaments, and me and Jason might have to talk about that.
We've legitimately, the devs have been speaking on changing up time for fun because the game's optimization is a little bit sub at the moment, and when it plays time for fun, it generates 10 cards, but it tries to generate all of them at the exact same game tick, meaning that it gets a little bit clogged. And people have started matches by just playing entire 100 card time for fun decks, building their deck to an absolutely obscene level, and just hoping the game crashes or hoping that your opponent is just sick of watching the game load. So we are currently already having talks on, making time for fun less
more fun, making it more fun and less actively hostile to gameplay.
I'm sure that the people griefing the game are having a blast doing it. I just don't necessarily think it's fair on their opponents.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
So to game 2 at the moment. Mew already 1 up. Does just need 1 more game out of the next 2 to qualify. Azrael looking to try and make a comeback and try and make something happen.
We're gonna see Azrael shuffle their hand 3 times. No? Okay.
I don't think they want to do that this time. They spent all their resources drawing all their cards last game. This game, they're like, you know what? I'm just going to take the couple that I got. I'm happy with this. We'll figure it out.
I would like to draw 0 cards. I would like to go home and take a nap and rethink my life choices.
I think that they specifically wanted to just get the humble. They need that turn 2 humble because they just don't want to deal with whatever Medi shenanigans are coming. Because if Medi gets lucky and just draws a triple purity like COV card or something that they're not expecting, and they just drop that at some point, there's no way to plan for every single card to exist in the game ever. That's a variable they just want to get rid of. Medi is humbled.
Sure. We've established that the way this matchup is supposed to go is that nobody's allowed to play the game. We can't accidentally let our opponent draw something that lets them play the game. That would be unreasonable. Can't do it.
That would be no. We're helping our opponent here by reinforcing. No, don't play the game. This is we're actively helping here, reminding them that if you want a chance, you have to not play the game to win.
The funny thing here, though, is that Mew kind of, in an interesting way, has set their opponent up for that checkmate scenario from turn 1. Right? They have the super long-term game plan of I will build my resources and drain you. So you can't play for deck out in this long control mirror because Mew will eventually just get bored and drain you to death. And also we see that sideboard tech from Mew is that direct assault on the morale.
We're also seeing the Grave Rob come out here as well. Not 100% sure what, like, we talked about it earlier. They're gonna try and pull away some really threatening removal spells. Do you think there's anything specifically that they're just like, okay, this is 100% not allowed to be back in the game? What do you think the high priority targets are of the Grave Rob?
If they can get at it, they probably want to hit that siphon structure, right? The problem is that Mew is super on top of this. As soon as that siphon structure gets played, they're immediately cycling it back. And we're actually seeing some pretty high level pressure from Mew here. Mew has these Aether Adepts crashing in very quickly.
Indeed. He's probably going to have to throw Lance down onto their friend here to try and defend that out. But with 1 or 2 more spells, and they have the Blood Arrow in hand, so they can definitely handle that. These guys are going to be outside of kill range, and they're going to be completely fine getting past that. I'm curious to see what Azrael manages to do here.
That's another interesting thing. If you go back to, we talk about other card games, right? There are a lot of card games where this is a really interesting trick that you can do in Control Mirrors. If I'm sideboarding out all of my powerful removal spells, and I'm saying I'm not going to do anything, and I'm just going to sit here and not do anything better than you are, then there's this really interesting moment where instead you can kind of sideboard into an aggro deck and kill them while they're not ready for it, and all of their defensive tools are gone.
I will say, I just saw Demoralize coming out from U28. I don't think that was part of their main deck in the last game.
Yeah, that was a sideboard for sure. That's going on the we don't want to play things game plan. Unfortunately, I think Muse Aggression is going to get shut down pretty hard by this 4 damage sweeper.
We'll definitely see. I mean, they have a... It looks like they're trying to establish a lot more board control at this stage. I think the aggression here coming out from Mew is just a little bit too hard to handle. It could be that they get rushed out before we get to that, big control moment where the DoD have everything under wraps.
There is a lot of pressure coming in here. I'm actually not sure why we didn't see that sweeper come down this turn. That Wrath of Yuan Shi is just kind of sitting there saying, I'm ready to clean this mess up, and Azrael's just not letting it do its job.
It could be that they were saving it for something specific, and I do want to just quickly draw attention to Mew's hand here. He's trying to collect pieces. He's getting there. He's got 3 out of 5 of them. That's do you want to see that as Mew in this situation? Because you're not going to be able to play them anytime soon. But if it gets to the point where you need them, you'll never need to dig for them, right?
Honestly, from Mew's position, I think that having access to these pieces this early means that you're just kind of not particularly worried about the rest of this game, right?
There's so much aggression already on the board, ready to go, and he's got so much reset value in his hand. If somehow your opponent manages to overcome all of that aggression, surely he's there are better and worse positions to be in, but this isn't that bad, right?
It feels like Azrael can just wipe this board whenever they want to. I'm really not sure why they're not. Not gonna lie, this is an interesting set of decisions that's happening right now. It feels like they're kind of flirting with death for no particular reason. I get that death is cute, but sometimes you have to just chill out, put down the scythe, let it go. Or did they just lose?
They might have. Oh, I don't think. I think they're just short on lethal.
Okay, no. The secondary blocker saved us there. The thing jumping in the way from our hand. That's why we were safe there.
I mean, we were just talking about the perfect situations. This is the perfect situation to drop the Yuan Shi's Wrath. And he's actually managed to draw into, instead, a Stand United, which is going to do a fair bit of morale damage bomb to his opponent, and it's going to get him his guys out. So he's safe-ish right now, but also at 28 health, how safe are you, really?
Way more safe than we wish he was.
I mean, potentially, but,
the problem is I could look at Mew's deck, and I could ask myself the important question, how do you do 28 damage? And the answer I'm going to get is, why would you want to deal damage? Doing things is illegal.
I mean, he just needs to get enough resources for the Siphon structures to come in clutch. He's got the Calamity in hand. If he just ups his resources until he just feels like, I'm a little too threatened, I'm just going to reset the everything, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, this again, I think we're already in checkmate from you here. We have all of the actual answers we need. Absolutely everything we have to do here is just sit here, bide our time, up these resources, and point the lethal Siphon structure at face. I think this game is probably already over. I think Azrael knows it. I think Mew knows it. I think Azrael is putting up a valiant fight, trying to make something happen, because again, we're in this top level tournament. They're trying their absolute strongest, but I do not see the line that's going to give our monk friend here the victory.
I mean, he did actually move his guys to the assault zone, so that's something. It's nice. He's getting in there. He wants to fight. Wants to slap some people.
They're back. They got bored. They're hanging out.
How many just thrown out?
They did their best. They went out for one round. They're bored now. They went back home. Time to sleep.
They set fire to one house. The fire kind of smoldered out, and they were like, "All right, job done." Calamity.
It's okay. They were being shuffled off to Buffalo here anyway.
I do wonder, in Azrael's position here, in the triple DoD, is there anything that could have actually saved? And don't tell me that it would have been Shrine to the Heavens. I don't think that would have helped this specific matchup.
I think it would. It literally would.
You really think so?
No, for real. Like, I'm not memeing anymore, my dude. I think that the actual answer, the actual way to play this, is Shrine of the Heavens from Azrael, because that if you put on that kind of pressure and then you just slowly put out units and you force them to drop these big answers to every single unit you play, they can't actually have enough resources if you're only doing one or two things at a time and you're never putting anything in the attack zone because you don't need to.
But I think we saw that that's not the case in the first couple of turns. Azrael got down to like almost no health just very quickly because of the aggression that Mew was playing out. If you were instead focusing on, setting up a house and exhausting some guys so they can help build the house, you're going to have even less defenders in a situation where you're already struggling to stay on top of Mew's aggression.
What I'm saying is not that you put it down on turn 1. What I'm saying is that having it in your deck after you've stabilized the board, you put it down on turn 9 or 10.
Get control, then you start doing Shrine to the Heavens while maintaining control. That's the idea?
Yeah, and I think the Shrine to the Heavens puts on more pressure on your opponent once the board has stabilized than their ridiculous late game plan of up my resources until I can siphon structure you to death. And at that point, you're trying to flip the tables, right? You're effectively saying, my unanswerable, stupidly late game plan takes slightly less time than your unanswerable, stupidly late game plan.
You know what card I just realized could potentially be really important here?
What do we got?
I forget the name of it. There's a DoD card. I think it's double DoD. It's a 2 or 3 cost. At the end of every turn, it takes the top card of your opponent's graveyard and just throws it away. And just removes it from the game. That could be a really good potential, commander even. Like, throw it in your command zone, and that would be a potentially really strong option. It's a lot of decks that utilize graveyards and stuff. Sorry?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I think that would be very good against an opponent who was less ready for it. I think that the way Mew has been playing this game, they're not letting anything that matters stay in their graveyard, right? Every time that could have happened, they're just immediately playing these recycles. Like none of their cards that do anything has ever stayed in their graveyard.
Also seeing some interesting chats coming out from Twitch at the moment. Grin and Jin, one of the other confirmed finalists, is just kind of lamenting in the fact that Mew's deck kind of counters theirs, and they're just a little bit like, oh shit. Worried that they're probably going to be facing them potentially, if not in the semis, then in the finals.
Yeah, I think that if someone's gonna take down Mew, then it can't be by trying to beat them in the late game. I think if you want to fight this deck in the late game, then you do need something as ridiculous as Shrine of the Heavens, or potentially something like Phase VoD.
True, and one thing that I will say is, we saw a bunch of different factions being represented. I don't think we saw a single Genesis Industries Purity coming out. We saw Warpath, we saw Flame Dawn. There's no Genesis. I was surprised about that.
Yeah, no love for my boys the robots. The deck I was gonna bring to this tournament has 2 Genesis Industries Purity, Jason. So I was gonna show up representing my Robo lads.
Would have been nice. I think, and I could be wrong here, but I think that Genesis is the only faction that didn't make an appearance. When even Factionless made an appearance, which is kind of nutty.
Medi showing up strong here.
Yeah, they're definitely putting in work, making us reconsider things. Candid has come out here from Mew. They've shuffled a bunch of extra calamities into their hand, which is fantastic. They're just going to be, resetting their board and upping their resources whenever they get the chance to.
Yep, and Azriel down to this 27 HP mark. It doesn't take that long, and I realize that's a relative term, but it does not take that long for Mew to get to 27 resource points and the siphon structure to be lethal.
Indeed, and also you will note that during that specific combat encounter, that was Azriel who was forced to play their calamity there. So Mew is forcing the control player to use their best control tools on, sideboard stuff that doesn't necessarily matter. Once Candid hits the field, they're kind of just another body. You get the big play bonus off them, which they managed to get, an extra couple of calamities in their hand. You're feeling happy. You're feeling good. Now you've just got a 16-16, dude, and if they waste all their resources killing that, so be it. You're fine.
Yeah, it's already done its job. It just doesn't really matter that much.
I am trying to think, what else could we have seen from Triple DOD in this matchup specifically? Because, there's a lot of matchups that, on paper, it's very hard for you to win. But, of course, there's always going to be different tools and, niche specific cases of, oh, if I had this specific tool, I could have fared better. Not saying you would have won, but your odds of losing would have gone down at least a bit.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think if you want to be setting up this matchup, what you need is a transformative sideboard. You need something like a full, maybe 8 to 10 card sideboard. What you're planning to do is set up that, get control of the board first, set up that Shrine to the Heavens, and then just start slowly playing out 1 or 2 units a turn to start building up that Shrine to the Heavens, and just sitting in that support zone, forcing those big removal spells until they run out and Shrine takes over. Because Shrine will kill slightly faster than that boosting resources into Siphon Soul will, and if they're having to remove your units, or those units are boosting that Shrine, then they'll be moving even slower. I think that's the DoD answer to this.
Look at Mew's hand. He's got triple mass deaths, he's got triple calamities, he's got the siphon structure in his hand. You can't wish for a better situation to be in. He's got it on lock. This is Mate in 12, essentially.
Yeah, Mew is, this has kind of been, we're seeing Mate in 12 now, but if we're being realistic here, we've seen, we saw Mate 10 turns ago, so that we're seeing the second half of Mate in 20. Mew is playing this out masterfully. They know how this matchup goes, and this is why, as unfortunate as it is, this is why Azriel kind of knew from the beginning of this that they were going to give it their all, and they are fighting a valiant fight. That they knew how this was going to go down.
Does actually draw the second siphon structure now, which is definitely interesting. It means that they have a lot more potential to win faster if they just drop it one later.
Mew has 2 turn lethal now. They can just drain for 24 twice if they want to.
Also, your opponent does have a lot of stuff on the board that it looks like Azriel's not even going to move it out. They're just going to leave it in the support zone. Spending all of his resources here shuffling, looking for other things to throw down. He's going to...
You could also just, take a turn off a Calamity, do whatever you want. Oh no, chat's telling me something I didn't want to hear.
What's that?
No. Chat's reminding me that extra fate can target Shrine. I'm sad, Jason.
Oh no.
Jason, even my crazy idea doesn't work! Jason said no!
Okay, I will validate you here. Shrine still would have worked in triple DoD versus triple DoD, so you don't have to feel bad about that. You've still got that victory under your belt. You can feel good about that, alright?
Alright, I got one.
Look, 50-50 win rate, that's still a passing grade, right?
Oh man, I guess that's why this is this extra paid deck. This deck is basically saying there is absolutely nothing you can do to stop me. This is saying I am going to force you to be the aggro deck, and if you're not ready to do that, well, you've just lost. There,
Mass Death just hit 89 morale down to 51, and at 28 resources, I think Siphon Structure is all it takes. I think this is the turn that Muse won it. I don't think Ezreal has anything that helps them regain their health. I believe that we saw that they had Repair in their sideboard. Did they bring in Repair?
no, there's the big Siphon Structure, and the checkmate has finally come. Good game to Mew, very well played. Let's not take anything away from this mastery of control mirrors. They definitely knew exactly how to run this one out and make sure there was no chance of defeat for them.
Absolutely. So with that match, we finally have all 4 of our finalists confirmed, being What If Red, Mew28, Grin and Jin, and Jack Weiss. Sorry. And we have 3 amazing names from the Infinity Wars Classic community and a guest star who's shown up and is ready to play. I'm so curious as to what the rest of the brackets hold.
I'm not gonna lie, it has been a good time hanging out with you. This has been a very fun cast, but I am so ready to get back into some aggro decks. I'm so ready to see those Angels and Burn deck come out and crush some fools.
Absolutely, and we will be jumping into all of the aggression high action plays coming up soon. We're taking a quick little break. Gonna grab ourselves a drink of water to stay hydrated because we've been here talking for a whole bunch. I, of course, am Jason, joined by What Am I. We are here finally starting the semifinals. Back after this short break.
2 more matches!
Woo!
Welcome back again, everyone. We are coming back to you with the semi-finals. We managed to make it through those crazily technical control mirrors with some absolute mastery being shown by the victors. Now, we're going to get just a little bit more aggressive. We're going to see some interesting power plays here. Jason, you want to tell them what decks we got coming?
Absolutely. So we did just see Mew qualify with his Medi COV deck, which is all well and good. However, we're going to be jumping over to What If Yellow versus Jack Weiss. And this is going to be a very interesting matchup. 2 very aggressive style decks going against each other. What If Yellow running, of course, the double COV aggro rush, direct damage and charge with double Cult of Roar and 1 Flame Dawn. And Jack Weiss is playing triple Overseers, which does a lot of aggression and also has flying, making it a lot harder to defend against.
Yeah, it becomes extremely interesting when you have that flying coming in versus that charge. You almost get forced into this situation where you're trying to rush each other down. Though there is a really important aspect to this. What if Yellow has those mass deaths? And we saw those able to clear the way for some of their units in different matches. But in this matchup, that will make it very hard for Jack Weiss to fully commit to attacks, because they're going to know the whole time that at any point past that turn 6, everything can go away.
They're also having to deal with the fact that, you know, the big problem area of this deck is I kill everything and my stuff is immune to kill effects, but at the same time, the Mysterious Box of Wonder doesn't care. You can be immune to kill effects and it's still going to just blip, you're gone, come back another turn. And that could be like enough of a harm on What If Yellow's, you know, overall aggression here to give Angels a little bit more of an edge.
That's definitely something to keep a hold of. That Box of Wonder is a big deal. But remember that this is going to be a tempo matchup. A lot of this matchup is going to be about who can hold on to that control of the board. And as powerful as Box of Wonder is, unless you're going to sacrifice it, it takes a 4 mana investment to get anything done. So that will lose you a lot of tempo taking something out for a turn. So unless you're pushing that lethal attack with that Box of Wonder, you got to be really careful about that mana investment.
This could be a very early dragon trigger here as well from What If Yellow. If he manages to block this correctly, or sorry, if Jack Weiss blocks it incorrectly, he's going to leave his coil down to exactly 1 health and trigger its transform. Having a 20/20 dragon on turn 4 would be phenomenal right now. And
Ooh.
I'm really curious to see if Jack Weiss manages to see that coming.
That would be brutal if this gets done incorrectly here and we see that 2020 flying unit show up. That could be the end of the game. This is a very key moment for like this game. It's going to turn on the way this attack goes. It looks like Jack Weiss is going to avoid that because the Angel. Oh no! At the last moment, at the very last moment, he moves into the defense zone, and that's that 1 HP coil.
That was fantastically predicted by What If Yellow. Saw the setup there, saw this.
Wow.
And now we have a giant dragon on the field. It's turn 4, by the way. Just in case people at home were wondering, this is what aggression looks like. We haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, this is what aggression can do.
Welcome back. This is not turn 20. This is turn 4, and Big Mr. Dragon has decided to show up to stomp some fools. That was an amazing outplay by What If Yellow, perfectly predicting where those angels were going to go, setting Coil to 1 hit point, and unless something really impressive happens, this 2020 Dragon is going to just take this game away.
Jack Weiss does have the box out, but that's a huge investment in resources to just stall out a problem and not even officially deal with it. At the same time, I don't think they've got many other options left. I think they've got the Heaven's Wish card in their hand. That might do something to help, it's going to cauterize the wound, but they're still bleeding out from the other end.
Yeah, they can stall this dragon. The way the box is meant to work in Jack Weiss's deck, this Box of Wonder, what it wants to do is you want to play it when you're ahead on tempo. You want to spam out these powerful, hard-to-answer angels, these multiple swarming flying units, and then when your opponent tries to play that one big defender to save their life, you want to remove it for a turn or two to force that lethal damage through. But when you're on the back foot, when all you're doing is stalling this giant dragon for a turn or two, hoping you can find an answer that might not even be there, this box is not going to be enough.
I'm just a little bit excited that this entire best of 3 series is probably going to take less time than just game 3 did of the losers bracket that we covered earlier, the triple DoD matchup.
Wait, what just happened to our dragon? Hold up, I missed it.
I believe that was Heaven's Wish, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so they did have an answer to it, but they had to expend a lot of resources for that. Meanwhile, What If Yellow, they're just throwing everything else they have at, directly at their face. There's a lot of pressure coming in. It's going to be very hard for Jack Weiss to deal with it.
Yeah, we were in fact able to take the dragon off the board, but again, this is just put this Angels deck onto the back foot, where this is a deck that's meant to be the one taking the tempo. And we have to remember, What If Yellow has a lot of burn to finish out this game, right? So they only need to get maybe 30 more actual damage in to be able to just take this away.
I mean, it's really harsh for Angels to be spending all of the time that they should be spending reinforcing and buffing all of their Angels, just dealing with a single threat that they kind of inadvertently were responsible for when they threw it out. 21 health left now on the side of Jack Weiss. What If Yellow has a huge assault zone right now.
And all of these creatures just charging in, not taking any time to sit in the support zone. They are just jumping right into that assault zone, going for the Nexus. I don't know. This looks like What If Yellow's going to take this one down off of that amazing prediction play to get that early dragon and the tempo that they capitalized on.
Those are the types of plays that, like, you think about, oh, it'd be cool if this happened. Like, I was even saying the turn before it happened, like, it'd be cool if this happened, right? Not necessarily expecting that, the stars would align as they did. And, it's just played out absolutely perfectly here for What If Yellow. Jack White's going to have to definitely be a little bit more careful with how they handle the Agent Coil Soul Seller going into the future matchups.
Yeah, as we go into this game 2 and 3, expect Jack Weiss to be extremely aware of that danger that can set them so far behind. And the other thing to note is this is where the mind games start to play in, right? Now, what if Yellow knows that Jack Weiss knows that they need to be aware? And we're going to see some really interesting mind games when it comes to attack, defense, and the ordering of these creatures, just trying to make sure that Coil does not flip again after it just ran away with this game 1.
Also, as a note, the game's technically not over yet. I mean, like, I don't think there's many things that Jack Weiss has access to that could win this out. And, you know, a mass death's coming out. There's going to be probably another 6 damage here. But there are probably very niche little cases that they could potentially take to, you know, potentially come back. For example, if they use Box here and box away that guy that's immune to kill effects, they would have just bypassed the entire mass death and just not taken any damage. It looks to me like they're instead doubling down on Angels, all of which are just going to get mass death away.
It looks like that was not the decision that was made, and this mass death plus that burn effect is going to seal the game for What If Yellow.
All right, good game, well played, very speedy game 1. I've got the Twitch broadcast open on the other screen, and we're still introing game 1. And it's already over. We did it. It's gone out. So yeah, I think we'll just let them sideboard and see what they manage to bring into game 2. Their 2 minutes have begun.
This is this is the way. Got to find those high tempo power plays, that amazing outplay and predict. Get that dragon in. Get our game running, and let's check out these sideboards.
So Jack Weiss does have more Mysterious Box of Wonders. They have other potential cards here as well. I don't necessarily think they have much that's going to help in this matchup against, you know, the aggressive Flame Dawn and the control that COV provides. They might have something, though. And I don't want to necessarily spoil it, but there is something a little bit spicy.
Well, okay. Okay, what are we... Here, chat's allowed to know what we're looking for. Don't worry, we won't tell the players. We'll let it surprise them. What are we looking at, Jason?
Well, I don't want to spoil it just in case it becomes relevant for the final.
Okay.
Because in the qualifiers we played with open deck lists. In this we haven't, and the players who have been on broadcast have been at a little So I want to try and, like, we can probably spoil their decks because everybody who's playing has had their deck showcase. But the sideboards are a little bit more secret.
Okay, interesting. Or I did not quite realize we were playing with full closed deck lists going on here.
I do believe that's the case. I could be incorrect, but it doesn't matter. We're jumping into game 3. What if Yellow 1-0 up? Is Jack Weiss going to have the ability to bring it back?
We have that spiffy
lightning blast. What if you're curious? But I wish you could just like hover over that for a bit, because that's a real beautiful one.
I did not quite know what that card was at the first moment, but I will agree that's extremely spiffy. I am so here for that.
We got a bunch of alt arts that do confuse new players, but at the same time they look really cool. So suck it, new players.
Oh.
All right,
well, we start powering up that angel, and she just gets lightning blasted right out of the sky. We're not having any of that. Get out of here.
All right, I am curious. These torchbearers, to me, they seem like, you know, fodder that you want to throw down as soon as possible for that little bit of extra burn damage, and then you've got a body on the board. I don't think that the deck What If Yellow is playing has anything overly spicy where they suddenly become huge deals or anything. I think that's...
No, I think I agree with your assessment. These are made to get in those little chip damage, get in the burn damage, and this is just this consistency of the deck is what it's this deck's job to do. We're just trying to set up the aggression of the burn, and he's thinking about this coil turn.
Well, is this going to be an exact repeat of what we saw last time? Surely he's not going to fall for the exact same trick twice, right? Like.
Oh, it has to be on Jack Weiss's mind. After the absolute beating that this coil gave him in the first game, there's no way he sets a 5-attack unit as the first blocker. He can't do it. And in fact, he's just going to go full offense. He's saying, I don't want to risk anything. Forget your coil. I'm just going to the face.
All right, that's a fair and respectable decision. He is going to take an extra 10 damage to the face from that. But 10 damage is a lot better than 20 flying unstoppable damage. You know, we're okay taking that. So this is where the game becomes a lot more interesting. The last game, it was over by turn 3, essentially. This time, both of the players are just going full ham, full hog. I'm curious to see what happens from that.
This is going to turn into a really hardcore race, and I think what we're going to see is the really interesting moment is going to be on turn 5 and 6. These are going to be these decision points. Because both players know that this mass death is available, turn 5 is where we see in What If Yellow's hand that they don't have it. But if What If Yellow decides to pull all of their units back on turn 5, how does Jack Weiss react to that, knowing that mass death could potentially be coming?
He does kind of get a little bit spooked by everything happening. Jack Weiss decides to just go full defense. Flag Bearer is going to make the defenses a little bit less prominent, but some decent trades coming out so far.
And these Angels are big, and that really solid defensive turn allows Jack Weiss to take the tempo on this match.
Indeed. And so he is currently winning in health and morale, but not necessarily on board safety. Does have the Cavalry Paladin there, but probably wants to throw down the Malignant as soon as possible, get those free recursions going in. That's probably the good call to make. Meanwhile, Jack Weiss has a fair few cards in hand, definitely more than What If Yellow at this stage, but he's going to spend most of his time playing them this turn.
Yep, this is a really interesting moment where Jack Weiss has control of this board going into turn 6, and we're going to see how much they're willing to commit and how much they're going to play around this mass death. A lot of the rest of this game is going to be between these two players trying to figure out when, if ever, this giant removal spell is going to get dropped. And again, we see that What If Yellow just straight up doesn't have it, which may just mean they're going to have to bluff this and hope that they can slow the game down long enough to get it.
We are separated by a total of 3 health, by a total of 3 morale. And the Angels have a lot of beefy bodies hitting the floor, but COV has more than enough options in the deck. All they have to do is get to them.
This becomes a stalling game, and Jack Weiss says you don't have it. Jack Weiss is not playing any of this nonsense. Jack Weiss is going full ham. They're removing the only possible large blocker. There will be no bluffing. There will be none of this. The Angels are getting in and demanding answers right now. This is a 2-turn lethal.
All right. What If Yellow now brought to their knees? Are they going to find a way to bring this back? Let's see what the top deck brings us.
Oh,
not a great option.
that is another powerful aggressive tool, but unless we're gonna try to push lethal here, that is not sufficient.
They might...
Oh, and there's the mass death. 1 card too late.
I was going to say that they potentially have lethal here if they didn't shuffle that away, but I think going for the mass death is probably a much smarter decision to make here.
I believe they had 12. They had 12 charge plus the 21 already in play. They had 33 into 41, so I think they just plus the bombard would have been 37 into 41, so I think they in fact just barely could not find lethal.
What If Yellow considering conceding already? He's not 100% sure. I did actually just notice something there. Jack Weiss spent his resources to shuffle in a card as well. So it could be that he's not 100% there yet. Let's just see how the math plays out here.
I think with this box, this is a very lethal turn. Yeah.
Just mixes it away. Not a problem.
If we do all of the math, then theoretically, What If could have pushed 4 points below lethal, but even that would be without the box going off, and they know that box is coming in. They know they're not going to take it. So we're going to go to our game 3 here with these 2 racing decks powering into each other. And like I was talking about, that mass death is a huge part of this matchup. The Angels player decided to call that bluff, say, you don't have it, and I'm just going to crash in, and they were paid off for it. That mass death showed up 1 card too late to swing the game.
It really came down to, the numbers and the luck almost. Are you feeling lucky, Punk? was very well played. And yeah, we're going into game 3, Jack Weiss versus What If Yellow. The winner of this going, of course, onto the grand final, the cash money, prize money matches. And, this is where the pressure is on. That they have, the stakes have been raised. They've both seen exactly what their opponent's deck can do if you let it get out of hand. It all comes down to this.
And honestly, this is kind of one of the things that I love most about this game. This ability that everyone starts to have to predict what their opponent is going to do and where those mind games come in. And this time, the Angels player decided to make them have it, and they didn't have it. But sometimes you get punished for that. And now that they've done that once, maybe the next time they decide to play a little more conservatively because their opponent thinks that they're going to play the same way again. It becomes this really cool mind game that I want to see how these players navigate.
Absolutely. So it looks like we're having a relatively familiar turn 1. Commando actually whiffed there. Was expecting him to deploy from the command zone and indeed failed. Now has to hope that he doesn't actually deploy something else. Otherwise, this lightning bolt is also going to skip and completely miss on the kill.
Yeah, this is not the start that What If Yellow wants. This is a little bit rough. The only upside here is that we managed to find that mass death. So we have the reset button if the Angels player gets too aggressive again.
Feeling slightly safer about things. That's definitely nice. All right.
So we're gonna decide to put that aggression on. Start the race early because we know that come turn 6 we can decide that the race stops whenever we want.
Indeed. We'll note that there's some interesting options here. For example, Declarius is a card that's currently sitting in Jack Weiss's hand. That's a really good potential card for stifling a lot of the early aggression that Flame Dawn decks do have. And I've noticed in 2 games so far, this being the second, he's had that in hand and chosen not to just play that out. I mean, it does need to be in the battlefield zone to actually trigger, but if you're attacking and your opponent's attacking, Declarius just stops their first attack. It's like a free defender every turn if it's not dealt with.
I think the reason that we're seeing that card not hit the battlefield immediately is because Jack Weiss understands this matchup really well, and they know that they need to be the aggressor more often than not. They need to be the one putting the pressure on because What If Yellow has that late game burnout strategy. If you leave them alone for too long, they can just point all of their cards directly at your face, whereas the Angels need to take the time to actually get into that assault zone.
Alright. What are we going to be seeing here? There is a chance to see the dragon come out very early. That gets flied over. These two fight each other. Okay, so it's not going to summon instantly this turn, but if he moves that to the support zone and it's just not touched, that's a dragon next turn.
That's pretty powerful. That's, we saw that one game was won by this dragon showing up really big. And the dragon's going to be showing up a turn later this game, but that could still seriously swing the tempo of that game. This particular brand of Agent Coil is very much showcasing its power in this match.
I think the real potential problem here is going to show up when the mass deaths that we have here start coming into play, because that dragon is going to be so monumental that it's almost going to be signposted when it's in the support zone that, oh, a mass death is coming. But what if that's the trap? What if that's what gets Jack Weiss to overextend and just wipe his entire board at the cost of a dragon?
And the other thing is, this particular dragon gives some pretty impressive amounts of power when it dies. This dragon going down isn't even that big a deal, because you just get all the demons out of this one, right?
I believe that's the original one. I don't know if that's the one spawned by Agent
Oh,
Coil.
okay. This particular one does not cause a million demons.
Yeah, it has the exact same artwork because, paying for new artworks is
all good. I saw the artwork and I assumed I got demons. My bad.
Subjugated Dragon is the one that spawns that. The Agent Coil spawned dragon, I don't believe has the subjugated effect. I could be wrong, and if I am, I apologize.
No, I think you're right on this one. It's just it's only a 2020. Only a 2020.
Yeah. we can deal with that. It's not a problem.
Well,
Right.
the Angels are putting on huge pressure here, and I think this mass death is going to be forced, killing our own dragon. But this is a really interesting moment. We were talking about those mind games, right? Because we've put our dragon into this attack zone, we're telling our opponent there's no mass death coming. Otherwise, why would we be sacrificing our dragon? You can leave all your angels out there, it'll be fine.
I wonder if Jack Weiss is going to see through this and just be like, okay, you're going to mass death me. I'm going to take 12 damage after that guy who's immune to stuff, but I want to keep my angels. Is he going to potentially see that coming?
If Jack Weiss manages to pierce this veil and pull his units back this turn, that might be a game-winning play. That would take a huge read, though. And unfortunately, it looks like What If Yellow set this trap perfectly, baited it with the blood of his dragon, and is going to get that board wipe on all those angels.
Well, as a note, the Soul did actually survive having its second life procced, so...
Oh, that's huge!
And of course, the Banish came through as well to take out the last remaining guy, because it wasn't a kill effect, it was specifically a damage effect.
Yep, which was lovely. Unfortunately, this second mass death is, if these angels jump into the assault zone, just going to send them right on their way again.
Hey, hold on, let's take a second. Morale-wise, he is at 64, so, you know, Jack Weiss feeling pretty good about things. He's not crying to his parents or anything, you know. He's feeling okay. But...
I think this particular matchup is likely to end up decided by hit points.
Yeah. You always want to take a second to check in with the morale, just in case, though, because
it's good to check.
Yeah, it definitely you definitely want to be aware of the morale situation and not lose to something unexpected, you know?
Oh, yup, and because that mass death got triggered, all these angels jump in trying for that lethal, and the second one is just going to clean up this board again.
64 morale down to 34. So, as I was saying, we do need to be aware of, you know, the cost of morale here. It definitely becomes an important thing at some point. Also, this is the difference between drawing no mass deaths and drawing all three of them. This is the difference.
This is what we were talking about, right? This is the two biggest key cards in this matchup are the mass deaths and what you can proc that Agent Coil to the dragon on. And in both games, Jack Weiss said, I don't care about mass death. I'm going to play as if you don't have it, and I'm just going to try to kill you. And we saw that pay off for him once, but these big board sweeps have made that particular philosophy punishing in this game 3.
Absolutely. I mean, does Jack Weiss have anything here that could potentially save him from this situation? I mean, I think I'm seeing like a no more heroes in his deck. He's got the search for the key, so he's managed to pull out another soul into his hand, but that's going to be a little bit slow to hit the trigger, and you know he's down to 35 health here, like losing the board battle while being in that very vulnerable situation, and a Dark Blast now coming out.
Yeah, this is burn lethal. This is if either of these units get through, this is going to be burn lethal. I think What If Yellow is going to take themselves down to 1 hit point here with all the burn pointed at themselves, but the only hit point that matters is that last one, and I think Yellow is going to demonstrate that for us really well here.
Is Game 3 seriously going to come down to a single hit point? Because that's rad. Oh my god.
I think it is. I think Game 3 of our semifinals is a 1 hit point difference as he deals 20 to himself to kill his opponent who is off the board, and the burn deck is going to take this match down.
Congratulations to What If Yellow for becoming our first grand finalist.
Amazing. That was how this game was meant to be played. That was sick.
Absolutely. I'm really curious on the other semi-finalist matchup. We're going to quickly cut to our reporter in the field. The tournament organizer, Bemi, is going to quickly feed us the information and the high-level stuff that we need to know so we can pass it on to you guys. What have you got for us, Mr. Mandinaria? Sure
Love
thing.
it.
Here's a note. Are you muted and I have to repeat all of that? Okay, cool. It's currently in the other semifinals match, Game 3 in Grin and Jin vs. Mew28. And yeah, they're also having a bit of a hard slogger. So we'll be letting those guys finish and reporting back to everybody else with what the grand final matchup will be. Congratulations to What If Yellow for making it into the money round. Because even if he loses the next game, he is going to at least walk away with some sort of prizing, which is fantastic. And I'm very curious to see between Grin and Jin and Mew28 who is going to be joining them in the grand finals.
We're going to throw it to a quick break, and we'll be back with that grand finals relatively shortly. Hope to see you guys soon. Welcome back, everyone, one more time. We have had a heck of a road to get here, but it is time for the grandest of finals. We are coming back with our two finalists after some grueling matches. Jason, you want to tell us what these awesome decks are going to look like for the last round of today?
Absolutely. We have the player Mew28 taking on, I believe, What If Red. Now, let me just quickly double check. Is that correct? I believe it is. Yes, so the specific decks that we're looking at here is Mew28 with their Medi COV control, and we've also got What If Yellow, who has the double COV aggro rush with a lot of Flame Dawn support in the COV matchup. Now, I do want to quickly spoil something that happened in the last game. We talked about Medi, how he's a card that is, completely based on randomness, and a lot of Game 3 came down to one specific card draw and just getting really lucky on Medi that completely shut down Grin and Jin in a huge way, and that was pulling a Perils of Command from Medi.
Oh no. Oh, that's rough.
This big threat that he had with Beck sitting in the command zone, he just top-decked exactly what he needed to deal with that. Not even a stress, not in the deck, not in the sideboard, doesn't matter, I got it anyway. And those are the types of random bullshittery that you can get away with if you play Medi, and if you just get lucky.
That is the power of Medi, but now we are seeing this grand finals start up, and we're going to see if this pressure plus burnout strategy from What If Yellow can make it through the controlling power of Mew28.
So these decks both do have a fair bit of early aggression, but the aggression styles are relatively different. We've seen a lot of the Mew28 aggression having a lot of these Aether Acolytes on the field ramping up relatively quickly and, just eventually getting some really cool stuff with Medi. Whereas What If Yellow is all just about, I'm going to play things in the assault zone immediately, and they're just going to keep coming, and they're not going to stop coming.
What If Yellow really just wants to get as much damage as possible in this early game, back it up with that burn and that cool kind of mass death plus their unkillable unit combo, and then just end the game before the opponent can recover and do whatever they're trying to do. What If Yellow is looking to stabilize this board, because as we've seen multiple times today, if the game goes late enough, What If Yellow is just going to win. Sorry, if the game goes late enough, Mew is just going to win. What If Yellow's job is to make sure that does not happen.
I mean, honestly, I don't think that there's either one of these players who has the ultimate late game advantage. They both have significant pros and cons to their actual decks that actually go against each other pretty evenly. I think this might actually come down to the randomness effect of what the hell is he going to pick here from Medi? And we've already seen one of the cards being drafted by Medi, which we're not going to say just yet, but you can see it on the screen if
yeah, there's definitely a powerful one that could turn this board around right quick. But let's be real, Mew's down to 31. It's crazy to think about, but that's burnout range for Yellow.
It absolutely is. This aggression is absolutely flaunting him here. He's not even going to get the chance to get his first one out, but he does drop out the Angel here. Azale drops onto the field. Is going to give him a fair bit of extra health.
That's such a huge hit. That's such a huge hit. Medi just showing up with that ridiculous randomness. You just cannot play around that.
It's definitely difficult to. And now we're going to see the resource game coming out here as well. And does unfortunately lose Coil into the trading, which is unfortunate. And now he's got an Azael to deal with, which is a very hard triple purity card that he now has access to without even having a single Overseer's card in his deck. But, you know, what if Yellow does have a fair few control spells in their deck, so they should be eventually able to, you know, circumvent that problem. We'll see what
I think honestly, worse than the Azael being a large unit that you have to deal with, just that huge life gain that it just gave. That's just, it's such a body blow to the burn deck.
Absolutely. Just an extra 1/3 of our total health pool available, just coming right back. Not a problem, just shrug that off. That's very oppressive. And we've actually seen already another card being drafted here from Medi that could, like, it's not going to come out soon, but that's going to be a very rough one for What If Yellow to deal with.
Yeah, I don't know if we can find enough burn here, and this Jade Witch just showing up to shut down the aggression even further. That Dark Blast is such a huge hit, that 12 points of burn, but because of that big angel that showed up off of Medi, Mew is still extremely healthy.
One thing I do want to point out here is that Mew specifically left Azael in the support zone, predicting that there would be a mass death or that there would be a death ray, neither of which happened. So he did potentially lose out a little bit of extra value there, and he's still keeping it in the support zone. Look at that.
Yep. This is this is that mind game, right? That moment of can I keep my dragon back? Right, and so this is, if Mew decides to go for it, they have lethal this turn. They'd be opening themselves up to that mass death though, so we'll see if they're going to still be careful. And it looks like they are.
Okay. Death Blast coming out. He's going to bring them down to 27 health versus 17. So already the Azael instantly just paying for itself and making the Medi pick so worth it. They're doing just fine. Also, I'm not 100% sure if it's a graphical glitch, but like it appears as if everything on their board has flying. Did I miss something?
That may just be a graphical glitch.
Yeah, that's okay. Those people shouldn't be flying, and let's pretend they're not. All right.
Yeah, but here comes the lethal swing. Siphon Structure going to try to keep us alive, but it's not quite going to get there. And we're going to see the first game go to Mew on the back of that Azael. A huge amount of burn coming out from What If Yellow, but just not quite enough to take down the ridiculous amount of healing that Medi gave out.
See, there's a lot of people who believe that, you know, certain cards and elements should not necessarily be allowed to be in the competitive scene. And I think that this is probably going to be a lot of their, you know, case Exhibit A sort of thing, where, you know, we have these rules set up of, you know, you can expect certain things, but Medi just by himself just defies all of that. The second you have a Medi as a commander, you bring in a whole new element of randomness that will, you know, completely and utterly change the game. And while he's definitely a very fun card, it's a little bit iffy as to whether he's going to remain as competitively viable, or if we're, you know, something is going to potentially be changing about them, I'm sure. But, like, it doesn't mean that he's not necessarily still a very fun card. Just, you know, having access to drafting your deck as you play live is just a really unique, fun little mechanic on itself, though.
Yeah, it's quite a powerful card. I don't even necessarily think it's unbalanced. I think you're having a huge deck building cost to get access to that, deciding to not take one of your purities. I think that Mew has definitely had a few very solid draws, but we've also seen them with that absolute mastery over those control mirrors, right? That Medi's randomness had nothing to do with. Medi was getting humbled on turn 2, and the deck still functioned just fine.
Yeah, it did really well. Even when he was, getting humbled, couldn't use his Medi, still found other ways to control the board. And, you know, as you just explained, had just complete mastery of the control matchup. He's doing very well. I want to quickly take a second, though, to check out the sideboards here, because what if Yellow might necessarily have something to throw in here, but I'm curious as to what Mew's going to do.
I suspect that Mew will just be looking for more of that early game power just to stay alive as much as possible. Chain Lightning and Denial of Surprise are what stand out for me as cards that'll want to come in. Just basically anything that can be shot down early. There's that, you see that Denial coming out just to stop those charge minions getting in, stop any crazy power shenanigans.
Yeah, those cards definitely going to start coming in clutch once we get the charge people out. I'm wondering if he's going to play one instantly on the turn where he's able to next turn, on turn 2, or if he's going to like hold on to those for a later turn. I'm curious to see how that goes.
We will see. The issue coming in here is that one of these charge minions, yep, Denial of Surprise, I don't think that works on that, does it?
I'm not
If we...
how this interaction should go. Because, like...
Yeah, this is an interesting interaction, right? Because it shouldn't be... It says it can't be killed by a death effect.
And Denial of Surprise is supposed to be, like, stopping things that came in that turn, but it is technically a kill, I think it says on the card. I mean, we can't...
Well, we're not... I don't think we're going to find out, because it looks like this this particular Denial is going to hit something that it's capable of hitting.
Yeah. So, all that theory crafting, we can throw it away. Welcome back, everyone. So resetting. And, yeah, we're going to just get a little bit of extra damage coming out here. It's curious that it's going to that, not something else. And already we're seeing the intimidating monk coming out from U28.
Oh, goodness.
Eddie pulling something random from the ether and deciding, you know what, this is fine.
Betty is showing up for Mew in these finals. This man is being and the sweeper too. Betty is taking some powerful instruction from one Mr. Yugi Moto here.
Very interesting. I personally believe that, you know, cheating is bad, but if Medi results in this sort of thing happening, I think we can let cheating slide just a little bit, because this is fun.
Oh, no.
I don't care that you don't have the purity to play these cards. You should play them anyway, just because it's fun.
Oh, and the Denial of Surprise takes down our big coil, too. That's so rough. Getting hit by that double Denial.
Very decent read there by Mew28 coming out. Does have to start worrying about controlling stuff. Doesn't want to get too far behind things.
Yeah, but this Yuan-Shi's Wrath, this mass death, we're looking like we have the tools to deal with these people.
Definitely gonna deal with most of them. Not necessarily all of them, though. I'm curious, because, like, this is turn 5. Is he going to be worrying about the mass death into turn 6?
I don't think he even needs to. That's kind of the point. Like, yeah, we just see this this big 515 come down, and there's just that huge blocker going to sufficiently stand in the way.
I'm curious, because we just saw Medi activate. What does he pull this time? What do we got? Oh, Jesus. That's so... All right.
Oh, we just can't stop getting these gigantic angels, can we?
I want to know if What If Yellow has the, you know, fuel left in the tank to actually outrush and outplay this. Because, like, you know, setting up these high-cost cards is definitely all well and good. But if you can only play one or two of them out a turn, and What If Yellow just stays one turn ahead, that might be all they need to keep up enough pressure to actually take a game here off Mew.
That's true. There's a lot of pressure coming in here, and this mass death cannot clear most of it out. Most of these units do not care about mass death. This is definitely not over from What If Yellow's side. There is some aggression left in the tank.
Absolutely. We've still got the Ciphered Structure in his hand. No.
That's a big hit turn.
Yeah, but he does have the Avatar now online, ready to go. So
Avatar's online, but we're down in that potential burn range again, right? We're down under. We can start getting some pretty crazy amount of burn lethal from What If Yellow's deck. And this is a cool thing about Infinity Wars that a lot of other card games don't have. As we go into this later game, What If Yellow, as they're running out of cards, what they can do is they can just go ahead and use their mana, pulling more cards that can result in more burn out of their deck.
Alright, brings him down to 30 health. We haven't seen anything so far that has healing, unless... Does Sol have lifelink these days?
I know Siphon Structure heals, right? So we have at least some healing in that.
Okay, so Mew has a way to at least heal out of immediate range.
Yeah, we can start siphoning, and this avatar on defense looks like it is at this point shut down our actual attacking options. So what if Yellow is just going to be trying to find all the burn they can? This is just a burnout versus healing game at this point.
I think they
big Death Blast. Siphon Structure back in the other direction though.
You can see it healed now. They've actually got the Bombard mortar cannon coming out. Sorry.
Yeah, mortar cannon's active, so we can start sending that in. And that's another Dark Blast. That's 12 more points of burn. This is starting to add up. Yellow's thinking about how they want to spend their mana. You saw them hovering that trading post. They were thinking of drawing another card there that turn. Oh, there's that big angel. Oh, and the huge heals coming out again. I got to admit, if I was What If Yellow, after seeing both of those angels twice in a row, I might be a little bit tilted.
It's definitely not fun to play against, but, you know, anyone could technically get this lucky and play this, so it's weirdly, oddly kind of balanced, not really. Anyway, we'll be doing some real balance changes in the upcoming weeks, because now we have all of this amazing data, and we've seen like high professional level play. We know what works, we know what doesn't, we know what's busted, we know what people just don't want to play. And yeah, this is the best data we could potentially have to make the game even better in the future. But, you know, bringing things back from the future and more on the present, what options does What If Yellow have going forward into the rest of this game? He's, you know, doing a lot of good burn damage, but his opponent's got a huge field, and he's got 27 health left.
There's just so much healing coming in from you, and What If Yellow is trying so hard. They're looking for every point of burn they can. That Siphon Structure could give them another 10 points of burn, potentially, but it's just not quite enough, and they're going to keep shuffling. Mass Death can buy them a turn. If they don't die this turn, their Mass Death can keep them alive next turn. What If Yellow is not giving up yet?
I think they're pretty safe this turn, but I'm very worried about what's happening next turn. Also, we're seeing the Rancid come out of their hand as well, which is going to be a very important thing. And actually, Varroa Kidnapper as well does decide that he wants to kidnap a giant piece of artillery. That's okay. That's how that works. You go for it. What If Yellow down to 13 morale, staring death in the face with that avatar out.
Alright, has to drop this Mass Death here just to stay alive. But also, it's gonna give them that one more draw. They can keep cycling out here. Yep, there it goes. That's a Dark Blast. Is there another Dark Blast left in the deck?
I think I've got it. I think he's going specifically for health victory, because if he manages to squeeze him out and loses on morale, he'd technically win via the tiebreaker rules. Is that what he's doing?
Oh man. He needs is there one more Dark Blast in his deck? He needed to draw it. He needed that, or he needed another Mass Death to stay alive this turn. So he has to draw for the second Mass Death. And I don't think he can find lethal. He's so close. But these giant angels just popping out of Medi time and time again have just made it so hard for the burn deck. And again, one card late. Oh, it's rough out here.
What If Yellow, I feel like he's done everything right and is just not being rewarded for it, which is heartbreaking to see. Finds the Torchbearer, though. That's a good little play to end it off. Unfortunately, Avatar Lingbao is going to be putting in work here and just decimating the rest of What If Yellow's morale, which is oddly symbolic of the game that they just went through.
Oh, well, that was an absolute beating by some giant angels delivered by Medi, but we also saw some top-level play there by both players. They say in these games, you gotta be lucky and you gotta be good, and we got to see that from both sides today, and that was an awesome grand finals that I was happy to cast with you, Jason. That was some cool gameplay.
Before we wrap it up, we need to give a huge shout out to the 8 amazing competitors who all came here looking to, prove themselves and come out on top. The grand final was an absolute killer. The semi-finals both went to the best of 3 in the game, so competition was super tight, but at the end of the day, only one person could come out on top.
Was an absolutely awesome time. Thank you so much to everybody who showed up to join us today. I'm What Am I? This is Jason. We've had a great time, and big congratulations to our absolute winner. Jason, you want to give that shout out one more time?
Absolutely. For taking out everybody in the way, Mew28 is our October Open Championship. Congratulations.
All right, thank you so much, and that is us out for the night. Y'all have a good evening.
Enjoy the rest of your day.